the mother who used to beat and kick her, suddenly hugged her crying that day, repeatedly saying I love you. The next day, the poor girl who couldn't eat or dress well became the empire's most beloved princess. Lilica, born in the slums, deeply loved her mother, the ugliest in the world, with jet-black golden hair, sea-blue emerald eyes, and milk-black skin, always like an elf, no matter when or where. Having such a mother was her pride, but also a burden at the same time. Lilica, only 8 years old, was known for being smart and capable. She worked outside every day and took care of her alcoholic mother after returning home. However, her mother always spoke harshly to her, then took away the money she earned to buy alcohol. Even so, Lilica was still proud of her most beautiful mother. She always thought her mother, originally a noble, was just too tired, because her father went on a business trip by ship, incurred huge debts, and never returned. So they were driven out of the castle. If it weren't for Lilica, her mother wouldn't be living like this now. She could remarry and have a new life. She nodded with tears in her eyes. That's right, Mom. I think so too. She had fantasized countless times. If only Dad would come back, everything would change. So until the day Mom smiled again, she would protect her mom the moment she received her wages. She always said work is about integrity. Every time she passed by fragrant bread, her stomach would growl with hunger. But if she couldn't pay the rent, her mother would be in danger. She had to protect her mom. This month's rent must be paid. In the end, she only bought half a loaf of bread. After returning home, looking at her sleeping mom, she tiptoed to the corner. Hello, my secret storage. She kept rubbing the silver coins in her hand. The money earned during the day must be hidden well. One day, she would use these silver coins to buy chicks. When the chicks grow up, buy goats, then cows, and next time horses. Lilica giggled foolishly. She would be rich soon. At this time, Lydia, who was sleeping, seemed to have a nightmare. She struggled with her limbs on the bed as if having a fit, screaming desperately, I don't want to die. It's so hot. Save me. The next second, Lydia woke up with a start. She ran down from the bed and hugged Lilica, crying, Oh God, Lily, are you still alive? That day when she came home, Mom suddenly had convulsions, constantly shouting, I don't want to die. Lilica hurried over. Suddenly, the next second, Mom grabbed her hand fiercely, then rolled off the bed. Seeing her mom's pupils not aligning, Lilica became scared immediately. She heard that drinking too much can cause brain damage, and then life is completely ruined. Lilica hurried forward to check, but her mom mumbled, Where is this? No way, Lilica. Her mother stared at her blankly. Lilica panicked. Mom, I'm Lilica. Do you remember? This is our home. But Mom was saying strange things. Are you still alive? You've become younger. Lilica was at a loss for words. She was only 8 years old now. Could it be that her brain was damaged? At this time, her mother began pacing around the room. Isn't this the slums? Her mother kept repeating, I'm back. She sat helplessly on the ground. Approaching now might result in a beating. She wanted to wait for Mom to calm down, but Mom suddenly turned around. Lilica flinched. She was too scared to speak. It seemed she was about to be hit again. She closed her eyes tightly, not moving. But what fell wasn't that hand. It was Mom's tears. My precious Lilica, you're actually alive. That's great, Mom. I'm sorry. Lilica was stunned for 3 seconds. Why suddenly like this? Mom hugged her at once, sobbing and saying softly several times, It's all my fault. Mom was too stupid. I never realized how precious my baby was. But the mom she knew would never say such things to her. Could this be a dream? But Mom suddenly blurted out, I love you, and kept hugging her without letting go. She kept telling herself, this must be a dream. It would only be more miserable after waking up. Hearing Mom repeatedly saying I love you, she started feeling a tingling in her heart. It penetrated her heart, and tears involuntarily welled up. Lilica cried, not knowing what kind of dream this was, also not knowing if she herself was dreaming. Mom was so warm, so this is how good it feels to be held in someone's arms. Mom brushed her hair, rubbed her wet cheeks. After a long time, maybe she had calmed down. Mother sighed. Lilica felt everything was sudden and novel, yet also uneasy. She was even worried. What if Mother suddenly changed again? Lily, what's the date today? After she answered, Mom's eyes suddenly lit up. The palace ball. She grabbed Lilica's shoulders. Lilica, Mom must attend that ball and see His Majesty the Emperor. Lilica instantly felt despair. This was too absurd. She thought Mom had changed, but she was wrong. Rumors said the Emperor would freeze to death anyone he disliked. But Mom said she had a way. She needed to borrow suitable clothes from the pawn shop. So before Mom could finish, Lilica directly refused. Mom, I have no money. Please, Lilica, just trust Mom. This time she closed her eyes tightly, immediately turned her back. I don't want to hear it. The rent is due soon. She didn't want to be beaten again. Seeing her daughter's resistance, finally Mom sighed. All right, Lilica, if that's what you want, then there's nothing we can do. Then held her in her arms, comforting her. She knew Lilica was a child who could be happy without material things. So this was just her own ambition. Mom will do her best for Lilica, you know. Lilica nodded. Before she could speak, Mom suddenly hugged her and lay down. Then let's go to bed early today. Hearing her mother's words, Lilica quickly took out that half loaf of bread. I ate before coming back. You eat it, Mom. Looking at her daughter's emaciated face, Mom's heart ached. She actually understood. Lilica had come back hungry. Let's eat together then. After sharing the bread, Lilica and Mom slept together on the narrow bed. Because she was so happy, she immediately fell asleep. But when she woke up the next morning, Lilica found Mom was gone. Even the silver coins hidden under the floorboards were gone. She spoke with a sob, choking as she hated Mom for the first time. She cried and cried until she was dizzy and deaf. If only she could just collapse like this. But she couldn't rest, because there wasn't a penny left. She could only drag her thin body to continue working. Even the planned future was completely shattered. She wandered dazed on the streets. People on the street hurriedly avoided her when they saw how dirty she was. She shyly returned to the slums. It wasn't until sunset that she returned to her doorstep. Maybe Mom had come back. Maybe you'll say sorry. Maybe you brought the money back too. Maybe Father. Thinking of this, she gave a bitter smile. She knew better than anyone. Dad wouldn't come back. Now she was all alone. Suddenly a pair of shoes entered her vision. Miss Lilica Barnes. She abruptly looked up at that person. After seeing the face clearly, her eyes were full of disappointment. Oh, it's not Dad. But that person reached out to her. I'll come and pick you up. Hearing the uncle say he would take her to find Mom, Lilica firmly said, holding her arm. Mom said not to go with strangers. Left with no choice, the man introduced himself. I am Lobwolf. But so what? Seeing the little girl was unmoved. He then seriously said, your mother is very ill. Hearing this, Lilica ran off immediately. Remembering how Mom was crying and shouting last night, she was extremely worried. At this moment, Lob whistled. The carriage immediately stopped. Lilica jumped up, but underestimated the height of the wheels. In the end, she had to be lifted onto the carriage. Mom, I'm coming. Let's go quickly, Lob said with a sense of guilt. Miss Barnes, you shouldn't trust others so easily. Lilica was stunned. Hearing the man say, Mom was actually very healthy. He started singing with a twisted face. What followed was her eardrum rupturing. After listening to the entire song, she was bleeding from 7 orifices. She was tormented all the way to the palace. Until the carriage stopped, she was completely exhausted. Lilica prepared herself for battle. No matter what method he used, she would never get off the carriage, even if it killed her. But this place doesn't look like somewhere for human trafficking. At this moment, someone ran out from the palace. As Lilica arrived, this familiar voice was Mom's. When Lucia came running, holding up her flowing skirt, Lilica leaped down from the carriage. I'm sorry, Lilica. I must have worried you, Lilica said with a sob. I was really angry. She expressed her dissatisfaction. Even so, her mother didn't get angry. Instead, she hugged her more tightly. I know Mom was wrong. I did a terrible thing. Mom apologized repeatedly with a choked voice. Lilica's heart softened. After saying goodbye to Lob, Lucia took her back to the palace for a bath. She patiently explained, today, Mom met His Majesty the Emperor at the ball. In Lilica's impression, the Emperor was a monster who dug out children's hearts to eat. Mother comforted her not to be afraid. His Highness is a reasonable person. After putting on her shoes, Lilica stood up, marveling. It's as beautiful and soft as a cloud, isn't it? Then her mother took out some soft, fluffy bread and jewel-like shimmering jam. It was her first time tasting such a wonderful flavor. While drinking juice, Mom suddenly blurted out, so, Mom is going to marry His Majesty the day after tomorrow. Lilica was stunned. Could it be that Mom is tricking the Emperor? Is she playing hard to get with me? Mom smiled and said, of course, this is not an ordinary marriage. She leaned down and whispered this secret, only telling Lilica, actually, this is a contract marriage. Lilica's jaw dropped in shock. She lowered her head, thought for a while, and said, oh, I see. She said, half understanding, a contract marriage is like a job, right? Mom didn't expect her to be so calm. Lilica clenched her little fists. I'll keep this secret safe. On second thought, could it be that Mom will become the Empress? She couldn't help but doubt, is it really reliable? Lilica, from the day after tomorrow, you'll be a princess. Hearing the word princess, She immediately focused her attention. This also meant she was a contract princess. So how long would the term be? Mom thought for a moment and said, 8 years, until the current emperor's nephew, His Highness the Crown Prince, inherits the throne. Then we can find a beautiful house near the capital and live happily together forever. We'll also receive a lot of money. After hearing Mom's explanation, Lilica couldn't stop smiling. But you must never tell anyone. This is an eternal secret. It must not be leaked out. Lilica suddenly made a vow. Don't worry. I will never tell anyone. Even if I die, I won't. Before she could finish, Mom hugged her fearfully. Trembling, she said, I know. Lilica, you will keep it. Lilica spoke confidently. Don't worry, Mom. I'll try my best to help you. I'm here. I will always protect you. Although she said so, on the day of the wedding, facing the cheers of the massive crowd, she felt like she was about to collapse. At this moment, Mom held her little hand. When Lilica looked up at Mom, it was the angelic smile she loved. Watching Mom wink at her, Lilica's face was beaming with a happy smile. After His Highness put the wedding ring on Mom's finger, his gaze shifted towards Lilica. She was so scared that she immediately curled up into a ball. As the chapel bells rang, His Highness kissed Mom's arm. At that moment, they looked more like lovers who had fallen in love. Just 3 days ago, people were still discussing among themselves, the Empress is actually from the slums, although she is indeed a beautiful person. And another boy focused on how the mother and daughter had risen to power. He even looked forward to meeting them. Since Mom became the Empress, she was often bullied by His Highness all night long. Lilica, who knew nothing about this, in order to become a qualified princess, studied from early morning to late night every day. Only in the early hours of the morning did she have a chance to see Mom. But strangely, Mom was always sleeping. Since the wedding, she hadn't been able to see Mom. But today, she could finally get her wish. The most beautiful and elegant Mom in the world, she thought with great anticipation. But the moment she saw Mom, she was completely stunned. Why did Mom look so haggard? Seeing Lilica's concern, Mom smiled and said it was nothing. I heard you've been studying etiquette. Are you tired? When she first met Lilica, Lady Gwendolyn was quite surprised. She had thought she would be a tired little brat, but she was completely different from what she had imagined. Attentive, serious, and well-behaved. The only shortcoming was that her mind had learned, but her body hadn't caught up. Seeing her trying hard to curtsy in a cute way, Mom regained her spirit, but Lilica was still worried. Are you not sleeping well at night? Lucia sighed. Then she laughed and said, let's just say, I'm not sleeping well. Looking at her tired mother, Lilica didn't want to disturb her further, so she left early. After leaving, she mumbled, why is Mom so tired? Hearing this, the maid nearby laughed. Because she's bullied every night. Although there was sarcasm in her words, it was a shock to Lilica. After confirming several times, Lilica was too shocked to speak. Is His Highness torturing Mother every night? The thought alone made her break out in a cold sweat. Is he abusing Mother every night? Remembering her mother's tired face today, her unease turned into certainty. She must save Mom. Lilica swallowed as she walked back to her room through the corridor. Can you write a request for an audience with His Majesty? The attendant looked at the little princess in surprise. After a while, the attendant came back with an answer. His Highness says he has time now. Please stop bullying Mom every night. The little princess mustered up her courage and shouted her dissatisfaction at His Highness. Although she was scared inside, she had to save Mom, because when she saw Mom this morning, she looked completely exhausted. Lilica felt very distressed, so she wanted to see His Majesty the Emperor. Lilica took a deep breath. The office door opened from the inside. She walked in very cautiously, but because she was too nervous, she forgot not to look directly at His Highness. Her small stature, looking at the tall desk, when she realized it, Lilica hurriedly curtsied, wondering what was wrong with her knee bend. A deep voice sounded. She stammered because of some things. So I came. His Highness held his forehead and told her to speak. Lilica encouraged herself not to be afraid. I can do this. After mustering up courage, she shouted, please stop bullying Mom every night. At these words, everyone stopped moving. Lilica closed her eyes tightly, not daring to breathe. Stifled laughter could be heard around. His Highness stood up. Walking to Lilica, he looked at her puzzled. The startled Lilica quickly added, Mom is too tired. She can't even get up in the morning. The people around were about to burst into tears from laughter. Then Lilica started wailing, "Please don't torture Mom anymore." His Highness coughed dryly. "Wait, I'm sure your mom likes it too." Suddenly, a burst of coughing erupted all around. This startled Lilica again. Is coughing when His Majesty speaks some kind of etiquette? She also coughed appropriately twice. The other two couldn't hold it in anymore. Hearing the explosive laughter, Lilica thought she had done something wrong. Seeing her standing there at a loss, a man with long brown hair walked over. "That fool isn't laughing at the princess. Don't worry, brave princess. His Majesty won't bully the Empress every night anymore." Hearing this, His Majesty's face darkened. He said resignedly, "I understand." Lilica thanked them with a beaming smile. The other two introduced themselves. The gentle Rat is the Imperial Prime Minister, and the straightforward Tan is the captain of the Imperial Guard. When Lilica was about to leave, His Highness suddenly asked why. Then he beckoned her to come over. Seeing Lilica not reacting, he repeated it again. Lilica timidly took 2 steps forward. His Highness slowly lowered his head. He reached out and picked her up. The tiny Lilica was placed on his lap. He found her as light as a cloud, the kind that would fall over if pushed with a finger. Before Lilica could speak, he flicked Lilica's forehead. With a bang, Lilica was flicked onto the ground. She had just boasted about having a strong body, and now she was proven wrong. Rat quickly came forward to check on her, gently rubbing her head, asking if she was okay. "Does it hurt when I touch it like this?" Except for Mom, this was the first time she had been cared for like this. Lilica didn't want to cry, but tears fell involuntarily. She choked out, "I'm fine." The two instantly felt murderous towards His Highness. After being nagged for a while, His Highness slowly said sorry. Unlike the Crown Prince, Lilica was as light as a cloud. It was his first time raising a daughter and apologizing. He called for the royal physician to thoroughly examine Lilica. Unexpectedly, the Empire's 3 core figures would value an adopted daughter so much. It seems the princess has gained the strongest backing. Lilica was very seriously eating snacks. The 3 grown men simultaneously glanced at her, afraid to miss any adorable moment. Even His Highness was the same. The chocolate bread melted in her mouth. Lilica was so delighted by the delicious taste that she wiggled happily, immediately forgetting the earlier pain. His Highness stared at her intently. As he watched, he became both a daughter-doting father and a wife-doting husband. Looking closely, those eyes gazing directly at him were very similar to her mother's. After finishing, Lilica bowed and prepared to leave. Rat quickly called out to her, "Are you adapting to your current life?" Lilica raised her small fist. "I'm working hard." Then Rat asked His Highness for permission. "How about making Bryn the princess's lady-in-waiting?" His Highness looked at him meaningfully. Indeed, Rat appeared gentle on the surface, but kindness and softness are different. Sometimes he could be decisive and cold. After all, Rat was also the Prime Minister. Tan waved his hand, breaking the situation. "I'll take the princess back." Lilica couldn't refuse. Unexpectedly, she ended up on a thief's ride. It was actually piggyback. Luckily, she wore several layers of safety shorts today. She was already 8 years old, a big girl now. Lilica shyly lowered her head. It was so embarrassing. But on second thought, maybe this was how princesses usually traveled. That's right, she should act like a princess. After an internal struggle, she naturally raised her head. With rosy cheeks, she lifted her chin high. After returning to her room, Lilica let out a long sigh of relief. But soon after, there was a knock on the door. A black-haired woman entered. "Princess, I am Bryn, your lady-in-waiting starting from today. Please take care of me." The confused Lilica was a bit dazed. His Highness loved to bully Mom every night and always liked to flick the girl's forehead. But as soon as she cried, His Highness became a daughter-doting father. Now there's a lady-in-waiting and even a palace. And even the knight captain became her personal mount. Looking at the splendid room, Lilica couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. "My dear Lilica," Mom suddenly appeared. She rushed into her mother's arms. Since His Highness said he wouldn't bully Mom anymore, she could see Mom every morning from now on. Lucia was worried when she learned about this. Although His Highness didn't seem like a bad person, he was actually more dangerous. She repeatedly warned not to trust His Highness carelessly. His Highness could snap her neck while smiling. Facing the warning, Lilica swallowed and nodded. At this moment, she noticed the lady-in-waiting nearby. Learning that she was Bryn from the Soul family, she smiled slightly. How adorable and clever my Lilica is, securing a position for herself. The Soul family has served the royal family for generations. Assigning Bryn, a direct descendant, as a lady-in-waiting means treating the adopted daughter as a true royal. Unexpectedly, His Highness personally intervened. It must be because Lilica is too adorable. Why didn't she realize this in her previous life? Mom suddenly hugged Lilica tightly, repeatedly saying I love you. While changing clothes, during walks, while bathing, at bedtime, she was constantly saying I love you. But since then, His Highness would summon Lilica every day. The daily changing snacks were also delicious. Mother seemed to have argued with His Majesty, but His Majesty appeared to have won. To be more like a princess, Lilica didn't dare to slack off for a moment. Why isn't she growing taller? His Highness muttered. She's been eating well these 10 days. The crown prince grows taller every day. Could the little one be sick? But the princess isn't from the Takal royal family. How can she be compared to the crown prince? Lilica Rima raised her small fist. I'm strong and big. I'm trying hard to grow taller. And I'm also part of the Takal royal family, even if I'm a contracted adopted daughter. His Highness looked her up and down. But shouldn't you grow this much in a week? That's how I grew up. Lilica retorted. That's because your Highness isn't human, right? As soon as she said this, the atmosphere instantly became tense. His Highness asked in a low voice who had said that. Lilica sensed trouble. She spoke carefully. It said the Emperor is a descendant of dragons, so your Highness is a dragon. Fortunately, it was a misunderstanding. His Highness didn't pursue it further. Then he called Lilica to come forward. Altyres found it interesting. With just a flick of his finger, she could die at any moment. But she fearlessly walked over. More accurately, knowing he was dangerous, she still believed he wouldn't harm her. She came running over like this. For some reason, he didn't want to break this trust. Few people looked at him directly. Lisha was the same. When proposing the contract marriage, she also looked at him this straightforwardly. Before Crown Prince Adil becomes emperor, he will be his strongest support. Now he has successfully navigated the social circle, even better than he expected. But compared to such a mother, Lilica was a type he had never seen before. Hearing Lilica call him Your Highness, he found it strangely jarring. Why call me Your Highness? You should call me Father Emperor. Right. Lilica was extremely conflicted. This was just a contract, wasn't it? Wouldn't it be too presumptuous to call him that? For her, a father was something from dreams, but the person before her would be her dad for at least 8 years. A real, tangible dad. Thinking of this, Lilica's nose stung, holding back tears that threatened to spill. She patted her cheeks and apologized repeatedly. No adult would like a crybaby. His Highness suddenly grasped her hands. You've done nothing wrong. Don't hit yourself. Then he softly comforted her. It's my fault. Just because I married your mother doesn't mean I can casually become your father. It's my fault for forcing you. As her tears were gently wiped away, that love, mixed with warmth, seeped into her heart. So Mom's July wedding meant she would have a father too. Father Emperor sighed. If your mother finds out you cried, she'll surely make a big fuss. Seeing Lilica finally smile, he handed her a handkerchief and sniffed. Lilica shyly turned her head away, took the handkerchief, and wiped her cheeks herself. Then let's start working. Lilica stared at him blankly. It seemed he wouldn't ask her to call him Father Emperor again. He felt inexplicably disappointed, murmuring the word Dad to himself. Someday for sure. Lilica helped organize the documents. At first, Ra was quite worried, thinking the room would become messy. Unexpectedly, at 8 years old, she could not only read, but also categorize things more systematically. So as a reward, Lilica received a big box of candies. But the little princess wasn't so happy, because Father Emperor said she wasn't growing taller. When Brenda maid heard this, she chuckled. The princess is growing just fine. It's just that the crown prince grows faster. According to national history, the Takal royal family are descendants of dragons. The wolf family are wolves. The sandal family are snakes. That's why they're all so strong. The Bryn family is said to be crows. No wonder Bryn's hairband always shimmers. Come to think of it, Rat being a snake and Ty a wolf explains their poor relationship. This sparked Lilica's curiosity. Although she was contracted, she was excited. But only if she performed excellently would he feel satisfied when leaving after 8 years. Being clueless about nobility and the palace wouldn't do. She grasped Bryn's hand. Can you help me? As a member of the Soul family, long serving the royal family, she never imagined being asked like this by royalty. But honestly, she really liked this princess. Because she was incredibly cute, it was in her bones. The Soul family's blood boiled with excitement. Of course, I'll help the princess wholeheartedly. Bryn took her through every corner of the palace. Now only one place remained, the Sun Palace. But Lilica was stopped at the entrance. With no choice, she had to leave with Bryn. During a moment of rest, they happened to meet Rak. As the Prime Minister, Rat immediately understood the situation. After getting Lilica's confirmation, he said with a gloomy face, "Princess, go find him in the Knight's Order, and write a report for him." Bryn exclaimed, "Good idea." Lilica nodded, somewhat understanding. Rat asked meaningfully, "What's the princess's surname?" "Takol, that's right. Please don't forget this point." Upon arriving at their destination, Lilica was instantly surrounded by a circle of knights. Dan came out asking what the matter was. Lilica said she had something to say. Before she could finish, Dan lifted her onto his shoulders. "This way we can whisper, so please could the maid over there put down her weapon?" Looking back, Bryn was standing there with a dagger. "Don't touch the princess's body casually. Take your hands off. Dan Srugit." At this moment, Lilica spoke up to explain her purpose. Without a word, he took her to settle accounts. With Mayor Chi as her exclusive mount, the little princess feared nothing. Except for the empress and the prince, no one in this world could make her bow her head. But even the girl pampered by the crown prince was stopped by a reckless guard. Lilica, looking adorably fierce, asked, "Can I go through?" "No, you can't. It's the prince's order." But the guard, who was strong a second ago, turned into a frightened chicken the next. "What's not allowed? Tell me what's not allowed." Stared at by those decisive crimson eyes, the guard trembled all over, not daring to speak. "State your position and name." The guard hurriedly reported. "It seems you don't know. Even in the Sun Palace, does the royal family need a pass? Those accompanied by personal maids are royalty. Don't you know this basic fact?" Dan twisted his long hair into a braid, placed it in his hand as a warning. "Bring your superior." A mere guard, daring to threaten the princess with a spear. This is outrageous. To avoid scaring Lilica, she put away her fierce look. "Princess, you can go now. I'll handle this. Will you be okay alone?" The little princess clenched her fists. "You can take me with you. If it comes to a fight, we're better together than alone." Hearing this, Dan chuckled. "If you're scared, I'll go find the prince. Don't worry. No need to come find me." Looking up, they saw the prince had arrived. Lilica immediately sat down to greet the prince. Altai smiled gently. "Don't you find it strange? How could a soldier do such a thing? There must be a powerful backer." After speaking, the prince gave a gentle push. Unlike last time, this time Lilica wasn't sent flying. Instead, she used all her strength to push back with her forehead. At this moment, the prince fully clarified his stance. "You are of the Takol royal family. Since you are my daughter, everyone should kneel before you. Otherwise, they're defying me." After Rat negotiated with Dan, he also stood up to support the little princess. "Please enjoy your time in the Sun Palace. We'll handle things here." The news spread quickly. Everyone who saw the little princess was extremely respectful, not daring to show any negligence. After all, she was cherished by the Empire's three core figures. Bryn asked softly, "So, how does power taste?" The princess ascended the imperial throne with her mother. Her endearing nature won the prince's affection, but also caught the male lead's attention. Spies he planted surrounded her. But Mom was a reincarnated soul. To ensure Lilica's carefree life, she had already thoroughly cleaned up the palace. Unexpectedly, the enemy was right under their noses. That prince actually dared to use his daughter. But Lilica was all smiles. She helped the prince organize documents. Did she get a big jar of candy? At this moment, Mom rang a bell. A maid quickly came with a tray. Lilica was instantly filled with joy. That was her treasured silver coin. She had caressed it countless times, dreaming of the future. Lilica cried tears of joy, murmuring, "Thank you, Mom." Lydia, on the contrary, felt apologetic. She couldn't find identical ones for the other coins. But this silver coin was what Lilica cared about most. Lydia felt relieved. No matter how much effort it took, it was worth it. As long as Lilica was happy, she was content. Lilica excitedly hugged the money bag. When passing by the Crown Prince's room, she couldn't help but feel curious. Since coming here this time, she hadn't seen the Crown Prince. Bryn explained the Crown Prince is in his territory. The secretary is now on his way to the palace. Lilica eagerly waited for her brother to return. But on the other side, the Crown Prince didn't acknowledge her as family. Lilica thought, when brother returns, she'll throw a party to welcome him. Rumor had it that the Crown Prince was very picky about food. If it wasn't brought by someone he knew well, he wouldn't touch it. Mom suggested doing something else, like a clean room, a fragrant painting, delicious desserts, a welcome letter. and inviting him for tea. But this wasn't enough to ease the crown prince's concerns. After all, evil stepmothers and bad sisters were common. At night, when the crown prince returned to his bedroom and opened the door, he saw a heartwarming scene. His mind was full of questions. How did the room become like this? The room was full of gifts and flowers. The crown prince only picked up the letter. Then he ordered, "Tell her, I'll come for tea." His subordinate looked incredulous. The crown prince chuckled. Standing in the scorching sun for 3 or 4 hours should sober you up. The subordinate couldn't help but sigh at this villainous brother. Early that morning, Lilica had just woken up. Thinking her brother hadn't returned yet, she groggily went to replace the cooled cookies. Hearing a sound from the room, she went in to look. It was the crown prince. Lilica was so startled she almost wet herself. The crown prince was also stunned. He had actually entered the bedroom coolly earlier, but because he was too hungry to sleep, he remembered there was food in the living room. Thus, this awkward scene occurred. His mind was now racing. Why did she pop out from there? Lilica's heart was also screaming, "It's over, it's over." She hoped he wouldn't recognize her in this outfit. She frantically lowered her head, pretending to be a maid. But the crown prince wasn't foolish. Which maid would wander around in the dead of night? Was she mocking him for eating food prepared by the enemy and sneaking over to laugh at him? Lilica trembled all over. She heard her brother sigh. He suddenly buried his head in his knees. This startled the crown prince as well. Her neck was already so red. What would her face look like? Hearing her brother order her to eat, Lilica, unable to refuse, had to bury her head and eat. The subordinate heard and came over, but he didn't expose her. He even mentioned that the crown prince had agreed to attend the tea party. Lilica immediately raised her head in delight upon hearing this. But the next second, she made eye contact with her brother. Both were stunned for a few seconds. Lilica, coming to her senses, quickly covered her face. She immediately fled the scene. The crown prince muttered, "Not cute at all." The next day, when Bryn learned that the crown prince had agreed, he went to prepare for the tea party. Lilica's eyes lit up. "All right, the tea party is soon." Everyone got busy. Lilica pretended a rabbit was her brother and kept practicing, "Welcome, Your Highness the Crown Prince. Aren't the teacups beautiful? Mom sent them specially to welcome Your Highness. They're printed with various animal patterns. I'm really happy to become siblings with Your Highness the Crown Prince. I've always been fantasizing about having a sibling. So please, I hope we can become close." This was the first tea party hosted by Her Highness the Princess. Everyone worked hard to prepare for it. Lilica waited for her brother with joy in her heart. The weather was exceptionally clear. She basked in the warm spring breeze. She stood there until dusk. Hearing from the attendant that he would be an hour late, Lilica obediently continued to wait. The warm sun gradually dimmed. The attendant rushed over with new information. His Highness the Crown Prince was too busy, so he couldn't come. Upon hearing this, Bryn quickly looked at the little princess. But Lilica calmly said, "Is that so? Then tell him not to feel too sorry. I'm fine." Then she asked the attendant to bring him some more desserts. Lilica expressed understanding. After all, people in high positions are very busy. Breaking promises is inevitable. In Bryn's view, these words had no malice. But the crown prince might twist their meaning. "I don't feel good at all. How dare you stand up an 8-year-old child? I know you're busy, but would it kill you to say sorry?" Lilica didn't show any signs of being hurt. Instead, she invited Bryn to have tea together. Bryn carefully asked if it was really okay. She had actually anticipated this situation, because His Highness is always very busy. She expressed understanding about this. Bryn chuckled, as expected of the princess. Suddenly, from afar came a voice calling Princess. She turned to look. It was Tan, so they had afternoon tea together. The tea party finally ended successfully. On the way back, Tan kept trying to cheer her up, looking at the sensible little princess. Tan asked once again if she was really okay. "Another guest was supposed to come today, right? I want to ask if you're sad." It was then that Lilica realized Tan's arrival wasn't by chance. A warmth suddenly flowed through her heart. She wasn't sad at all. Instead, she thought the crown prince was a kind person. This was the most absurd thing Tan had ever heard. He must have been too busy trying to finish his work and find ways to see her. Kept saying he'd be here soon. Faced with Lilica's devilish logic, Tan seemed troubled about what to say. Lilica was grateful she came today. If it had been just her, she would have been sad. But because Bryn and Tan were here, it was okay. Tan stopped. Her face bore an adult-like, sincere expression, but her eyes contained a trust that was both touching and amusing. Lilica didn't feel too disappointed. She even sent desserts to His Highness the Crown Prince. so he could eat while working. Tan broke into a cold sweat. Usually, it's the higher-ranked person who bestows food on the lower-ranked. Didn't Bryn tell her about this? When she turned to look at Bryn, she saw him smiling mischievously. Imagining the scene, Tan burst into laughter, holding her stomach. She was really curious about His Highness's reaction, but Mom would be sad to hear this news. Though Tan comforted her verbally, she silently prayed in her heart. Please, hopefully Her Majesty the Queen will be all right. Upon learning that Lilica had been stood up by the Crown Prince, Mom murmured, the Crown Prince will surely regret this in the future. To cheer Lilica up, she brought out a priceless treasure. But unexpectedly, the umbrella was 10 kilos heavier than Lilica herself. Seeing Mom's expectant face, Lilica had no choice but to carry it for a walk. While staring at the gold and diamonds in a daze, suddenly, both she and the umbrella were blown away. Luckily, she let go in time. Bryn managed to catch her, but that umbrella was worth a city. Lilica quickly ran after it, focused only on the umbrella Mom gave her, completely forgetting she could be blown away too. The moment she grabbed the umbrella, Lilica just sighed in relief, but the next second she panicked. This time she really flew. Suddenly, she hit some tree branches. She abruptly fell onto the lawn. Laughter came from ahead. Lilica quickly looked up. The moment their eyes met, the world seemed to freeze. Lilica was so entranced, she forgot to apologize. The boy helped her up, blew on her hair, and patted her head, asking, "Are you all right?" Lilica was stunned for 3 seconds. When she came to her senses, she apologized in a fluster. Except for Mom, he was the most beautiful person she'd ever seen. The boy rested his head on the parasol. "Isn't this too heavy for you?" When Bryn arrived, the boy laughed again. "Oh, so you're the rumored princess. Rumor has it she's an extravagant evil girl, but she looks quite silly." To regain the dignity of a princess, Lilica scolded with hands on her hips. It's not right to judge people based on rumors without seeing them in person. At this moment, Bryn stepped forward. "Duke Ballart, please bow politely to the princess." The boy grinned, resting the parasol on his shoulder, and gracefully performed a curtsy. "Is this all right?" Lilica's eyes instantly lit up. So elegant, absolutely elegant. Hearing Lilica's words, Ballart stopped smiling and fell silent for a while. "Are you serious?" Lilica clenched her little fists, affirming once again. More elegant than anyone in the palace. She suddenly grabbed Ballart's hand. Full of expectation, she asked, "Can you teach me etiquette?" He coughed lightly twice. "Just call me Field. And this needs royal permission." Looking at the little princess, sincerely apologizing, Field showed a subtle expression. He smiled bitterly. "If word gets out that you met me here, there will be bad rumors." After his silhouette gradually disappeared, Lilica murmured his name. When she returned to her room, Mom noticed something was off. Then she asked Mom, "Do you know Field Ballart?" Lucia paused for a moment, then said, "Of course," learning that Lily met Ballart at the Sun Palace. She suddenly startled. Duke Ballart is the leader of the nobles opposing the Emperor's faction. If the Crown Prince dies, their eldest son would inherit the throne. But Ballart has no chance of winning, because that child will die in 3 years. In her previous life, she sided with Ballart's faction. As a result, she was executed as a traitor on the pyre. Her foolish complacency also led to the death of her daughter, who only wanted to protect herself. More than Field, she was concerned about Ballart's maid who would appear years later. Lilica carefully asked, "His etiquette is very elegant. Can I learn it? Even though he's a boy, is he really that good at it?" This was the first time her daughter had asked her for something. Since he would die in 3 years anyway, she allowed it. Then she hugged Lilica. "From now on, whatever you want, Mom can buy it for you. Because, Mom, I'm about to become rich." Lilica was stunned. Mom said she had found an investor. Although people everywhere called her a scammer, she hadn't finished speaking when Lilica immediately interrupted. "How much did you invest?" Lucia stuck out her tongue. "All our assets." Hearing this, Lilica completely lost it. Learning the scammer hadn't left yet, Lilica dashed out in a flash. Bryn followed behind, advising royalty walks they don't run. But Lilica ran even faster. At this moment, she wasn't royalty. Although Mom told her to trust him, she really couldn't just let it be. To think of extorting her naive mom. Thinking of this, she stopped. Mom seemed to have changed from a certain moment. Perhaps she just didn't trust Mom. She shouldn't judge without even meeting the person. At this moment, the man noticed her, so he walked up and bowed. "Greetings, Princess." After seeing Mom's investor, Lilica instantly made a judgment. This guy must be a scammer, but she accidentally blurted out her thoughts. The scammer's face turned red, but he maintained his composure. Let's have a chat. The man's attire looked like that of a theater actor. Lilica felt his credibility plummet to rock bottom. Rumors say you're a scammer. You must have tricked my soft-hearted mom. Go tell Mom the truth right now. She displayed the authority of a princess. But from Bao's perspective, Lilica looked like an angry little lamb. Yuba quickly explained, I'm wrongly accused. If the princess hears my story, you'll know it's true. His sincere tone made Lilica ponder. Kicking him out without even listening would be too harsh. She pinched her cheeks, quite seriously. Fine, I'll hear what you have to say first. Wu Ba cleared his throat. I've been through floods 3 times already. The first time, I lost all my colleagues. Just like that, his adventure story immediately captivated Lilica. Everyone thought he was a scammer, so no one would sponsor him. However, he would soon achieve great results. In her previous life, he received joint investments from commoners. Afterwards, joint venture expeditions became popular. At that time, Lucia didn't know. Lilica listened with tears in her eyes. So that's how it is. I didn't know. I thought Yuba was a scammer. Yuba smiled. Thank you for crying for me. Your Highness, I will definitely return. Lilica sniffled. Then she took out a silver coin from her pocket, old and tarnished, carrying all her dreams. She handed it to Yuba, saying, I want to invest too. Although Yuba didn't have much, Lilica casually explained what happened in the slums. So you really believe me? He couldn't help but say it out loud. Aren't you telling the truth? He once walked around the noble district, seeking investment. Later he was called a scammer and turned away. They said his story was more interesting. The noble brothers laughed. They only gave him a small tip and sent him away. When the new queen called for him, he didn't have much expectation. But the queen said to him, I believe you. I want to invest all my assets. Yuba quietly looked at the princess. Her sincere eyes looked very much like hers. She looked a lot like her mother. I will definitely succeed. Hearing Yuba's words, Lilica hoped he would take care of himself. Yuba felt in his heart the weight of the silver coin in his palm. So your Highness found out about this. Altai said with a grin. I heard you were dumped by Adil. I wasn't dumped. It's just that your Highness is too busy. Hearing Lilica's words, Altai looked at her for a while. He muttered, actually, she might need someone like you, not me. Adil's behavior is foolish. Lilica quietly walked nearby. You seem to be worried about something. Altai immediately denied it. She strode towards Lilica. She reached out and pressed hard on her forehead. Lilica's face turned red, secretly delighted. She became increasingly interested in Lilica and thought it was suitable for passing time. In contrast, the crown prince was too tense. Never mind. Before she could finish, there was a knock on the door. Adil walked in with a report, but his steps halted. He stared intently at Lilica standing next to His Majesty, then walked past him. He walked straight to His Majesty. Your Majesty, I've brought the report you requested. Altair tossed a basket to him. Take this and go boating with your sister by the lake. Although Lilica was surprised, Adil took it as an order, seeing His Majesty's meaningful smile. If that's the case, I understand. Lilica followed closely behind Adil. She asked while walking, shall I carry the basket? Adil briefly replied, no need. Although this was His Majesty's order, she could finally get closer to her brother through this opportunity. Adil glanced at her. Lilica was exclaiming continuously, excitedly gazing at the lake water, chattering nonstop. At this moment, Adil reached out his hand. Lilica grinned and grasped that hand. This was her first time on a boat, so this is how it feels. Lilica suddenly remembered. It wasn't him who requested His Majesty to do this. The Crown Prince suddenly felt a bit guilty. After standing her up like that, he wouldn't actively request to see her. Hearing Lilica's voice, he didn't find it noisy. It was a bit awkward. He hadn't heard that kind of voice in a long time. He didn't know how to respond. Lilica frankly said, I don't know what His Highness thinks, but I've always wanted a sibling. When arguing with peers, sisters and brothers would come to help. Being alone, I've always envied that. So even if you're a cousin, I'm happy. I want to be closer to you. Is that okay? Adil blinked. This was the first time he heard someone say so directly wanted to be closer. His azure eyes gazed at Lilica. Gem-like emerald eyes, like an exotic jade-colored sea. She was always alone. Father had many siblings, 6 in total. But when he ascended the throne, he was left alone. At 7 years old, he was poisoned, writhing in pain as his internal organs were torn. So he didn't trust anyone, including His Majesty. During that struggle for the throne, of 6 royals, only he remained. The royal family was heartless. Father said before he died, the dragon's descendants must be strong. Once you fall in the power struggle, you'll only be devoured. So he always avoided her. last time's tea invitation, he deliberately stood her up, intending to discourage her. But now she remained enthusiastic. You must have been very sad. Adil's pupils contracted slightly. It was the first time he heard such words. Everyone focused on the struggle for the throne, and no one talked about these feelings. Even when his nanny died before him, he could only watch helplessly. Afterwards, he understood, to reach the pinnacle of power, one must eliminate the opposition completely. Lilika patted her chest. I promise I won't die, and I won't make His Highness sad. So don't worry. Adil chuckled. Will you always be on my side? If needed, will you come running? Of course. If someone bullies you, I'll teach them a lesson. Her playful manner was amusing, but he didn't believe these words. On the day of his father's funeral, he didn't shed a tear. Being born into royalty and power only makes one heartless. Lilika answered frankly, no one doesn't need these words. He knew these words sounded empty, but he did need them, and believed that this familial affection existed. Adil shifted his gaze. He wanted to believe, but he didn't dare to. The innocence and smile Lilika showed were like a dream from another world to him. Afterwards, they got off the boat. Adil introduced his guard. I'm Ron Grey. Princess, nice to meet you. The atmosphere suddenly became subtle. An alarm bell rang in his mind. His instinct told him that this man before him was definitely not a good person. How did you know about my secret outing with my brother? Faced with Lilika's question, Ron shrugged. I asked the attendants. At this moment, Adil opened the basket. Lilika tiptoed to look inside the basket. She also happened to see Ron tightly gripping his sword hilt. His hand involuntarily turned towards Adil. In that instant, Ron swung his sword like lightning. At the same time, Lilika forcefully tackled her brother. The sword grazed past. Adil's trembling voice came from behind. Why? You had me serve the crown prince for 8 years, just for this moment. Out of emotional consideration, I wanted you to leave without knowing. Adil fell into confusion. A heart-wrenching voice sounded. But why? Lilika shouted, because he's an evil demon. Ron paused for a moment. Traitor villain, give yourself a justifiable reason. Shamelessly trying to kill children. Ron was tired of it, letting this wild girl be the royal child, as expected of an emperor of unknown origin. Taking advantage of the talking interval, Adil used red wine to obstruct vision. Accompanied by the sound of a bottle breaking, he grabbed Lilika's hand and started running. When he was 7 years old, he was scared to death for the first time. When he opened his eyes, only servants were by his side. They left as soon as he reached the restroom. His uncle didn't come either, only saying it's good that you're fine. If he were to die, his subordinates would all return home, then find another master to serve. His uncle would also have his own child, letting them replace him as the crown prince. So he always understood there were those who could replace him. Everyone has the most important person in their life. But he wasn't. For him, there was no one left who could make him love. Therefore, he wanted to become stronger than anyone else. He had been working hard for this goal. However, the escape didn't last long. Due to the thick heels, Lilika's foot suddenly twisted. She wanted to let go of her brother's hand, wanting him to run faster. But Adil wouldn't let go. He stopped. He turned around, gritted his teeth, and picked up his sister. Someday, he would sit in the highest position, protecting his most important existence. His sister was willing to give up her life for her brother, even though they had no blood relation. The crown prince even often teased her. But in the face of life and death, Lilika tightly shielded her brother behind her. No matter how scared she was, she didn't step back, because she had promised to stay with her brother forever. Even when caught by the hair during escape, she first thought of pushing her brother away, hoping he could run faster. Adil turned back in panic. He once thought that the sister who inexplicably became a princess, saying she wanted to get along well with him, was actually just trying to get rid of him and seize the throne. Ron showed a demonic smile. Arrogant girl. Adil, with tears in his eyes, flashed through his mind Lilika's quiet and gentle face. He always understood that no one loved him, and he didn't love anyone either. He didn't need any damn family affection. But why? Why did he still want to protect this silly girl? He picked up a sharp wooden stick, scared but recklessly charging towards Ron. At this moment, a black shadow flashed across the sky. The darkness before her eyes made Lilika think it was the end of the world. When she opened her eyes again, she saw her brother looking at her, panting. It turned out the emperor had saved the siblings. Looks like you're both all right. The atmosphere began to become subtle. A hint of unease flashed through Adil's heart. Why did your majesty know we were here? Did you use me as bait? Faced with the crown prince's questioning, his majesty just tilted his head, showing a puzzled expression. This made Adil feel terrified. Is this the expression an uncle should show to his nephew, who nearly lost his life? Before he could speak, Lilica struggled to voice her brother's thoughts. What you did was too much. Please answer clearly. Did you really use us as bait? Although we would be very sad and angry, at least we can ask you for a reason. Otherwise, we'll really misunderstand. Looking at Lilica, who had spoken her mind, Adil was too shocked to speak. His majesty hurriedly explained it wasn't so. Letting them take the boat was a last-minute decision. The reason he came was because Rudia suddenly insisted on finding you. Learning Adil was in danger, he rushed over first. Your mother will arrive soon. Hearing this, Lilica's anxious heart finally calmed down. The long-suppressed tears burst forth. Seeing this, Adil didn't know what to do. Are you hurt somewhere? Little Lilica suddenly threw herself into her royal brother's arms. Fearing to be a burden to her brother, she had been suppressing her fear, pretending to be strong. At this moment, a call came from afar. Adil was startled. It was the Empress. Lilica still refused to let go, tightly hugging her brother, constantly sobbing. Seeing they were safe, Mother suddenly embraced both siblings, murmuring, "It's good you're all right." This made Adil blush. A long-lost warmth surged in his heart. Seeing this, his majesty felt a bit jealous. He was the one who saved them. Why weren't they hugging him? Even so, Lilica kept holding on to her brother, not letting go. Didn't you say you wouldn't die? I absolutely won't die. It was at this moment that they truly became a family. After returning to the palace, Mother comforted Lilica, then began discussing countermeasures with his majesty. Ron must have had another mastermind behind him, so he advised his nephew to be more cautious of those around him. Just as he was about to order him to rest in his room, Rudia immediately interrupted. He was angry about the crown prince standing up Lilica before, so even though he knew he would review, he chose to ignore it. If he could have said this, Lilica wouldn't have to review together. Although I'm not qualified to say much about educating children, this man in front of me is even worse. He only says cold words to children. No wonder he's so distrustful of others. You don't trust anyone yourself. Do you want to turn this child into someone like you? Hearing his uncle being scolded, he felt inexplicably pleased. Ater's face immediately darkened. The words on the tip of his tongue were pushed back. Didn't we agree not to argue in front of the children? Rudia turned to Adil and promised, I will always support you until you become emperor. And the emperor and I don't plan to have children. Although Ater ignores you, he will definitely let you ascend to the throne. Adil's years of suspicion were overturned at this moment. So, you weren't involved in any attempts to assassinate me. His Majesty again showed a puzzled expression. Of course not. Why would I do such a thing? After answering Adil's doubts, the two began to bicker again, engaging in further in-depth understanding. Adil tactfully walked out of the room, slumping down at the doorway. Was it all his imagination? The royal uncle trying to secure the throne, the aunt wanting her own child to take the position, the sister who seemed to be sarcastic about her status. Was it all just his misconception? At this moment, a servant came to report that the princess was looking for him. Meanwhile, Lilica was sitting obediently on the bed until she saw Adil appear. Her eyes immediately lit up. Perhaps she didn't expect her brother would really come. What do you want? I want to sleep with you. Seeing Lilica's expectant eyes, Adil helplessly scratched his head. He sighed and lay down on the other side of the bed. Why are you so happy? Because she had often fantasized about having siblings before. These words made Adil fall into deep thought. He patted Lilica's head in response. His calm demeanor made Lilica curious. Your Highness, aren't you scared? I think I'll never forget that incident. Adil said he was already used to it. This is already the 4th time. She had thought His Majesty actually knew everything, but chose to ignore it, even using her as a pawn. However, His Majesty's expression seemed to say, why would I do such troublesome things? Being this emperor is so boring. Since I'm on the throne, I might as well do my duty. It completely overturned the image in his heart. After a while, Lilica spoke. Even after 4 times, he would still be afraid. But more than fear, the feeling of betrayal was stronger. Adil held his sister's hand tightly, comforting Lilica to sleep peacefully. Why did Ron choose to act at this time? He had been by his side since childhood. Why now of all times? Was he contemplating how to assassinate him? And the only variable was the mother and daughter. Your Highness, you must become stronger. Don't let others see your weaknesses. Remembering what his father had told him, he once again resolved to become stronger. Because if he were gone, the little Duke of Ballet would ascend to the throne. Everyone would forget him, but Lilika's appearance seemed to become his salvation. I will always stand by your side. Why did it take until now for him to hear such words? Father had repeatedly emphasized, if you want to survive and find happiness, you must become strong. Even on his deathbed, he didn't forget to remind Adil, you must be happy. I know your future will be difficult, but I still can't leave you anything decent. I can only avoid it this way. When you feel tired, you must believe in your comfort. I'm sorry for you. But he couldn't trust that unfamiliar man, so he prayed desperately, no, don't leave me alone. In this world, no one stands by my side. Those beasts would pounce on him and tear him apart. If they saw his vulnerable side, please, Dad, don't leave me. But the emperor finally couldn't resist the illness. From then on, Adil finally made up his mind. As his father said, become strong and survive. But he would always be alone. Staring at Lilika's sleeping face, Adil's tears slid down his cheeks. The girl had no blood relation to him, yet she said she would always stand by his side. But perhaps it was precisely because of this reason that the child could love him and they could become a family. Adil's eyes were filled with tenderness. Well, I guess I'll have to protect her then. In his gradually blurring consciousness, the sound of breathing in his ears was like the sound of waves. He sank into a sea of emerald black light, just like her eyes. If he could plunge into those vast waves, no one would notice a tear or two flowing into the sea. Early the next morning, the two little ones eagerly woke up, but Rat coughed awkwardly, blushing. His Majesty and Her Highness are still in a meeting. They eat and sleep in there. The little princess naively thought, wouldn't it be more helpful if Rat, as the Prime Minister, attended the meeting instead of Mom? This sentence startled Rat. After politely declining, the two had to leave the palace. But the little princess was still a bit worried about her mother. Adil comforted her indirectly. Although his stamina might not keep up, Shunyu should know what he's doing. At this moment, a voice came from behind. It was Pai from the Sanner family, and Brin's brother Bolong. But Adil introduced them perfunctorily. The two ignored him and enthusiastically introduced themselves to each other. The little princess didn't forget to point out that the maid Brin was her very important friend. Adil was displeased upon hearing this. How could someone from the Soul family be his sister's friend? He grabbed Lilika's small hand, walking ahead and quickening his pace. I heard you invested in a scammer, the same person Her Highness invested in. Before he could finish, Lilika refuted that he wasn't a scammer. Yuba is a good person. Adil couldn't understand why his sister was so certain. He sighed helplessly. Do you think there are only good people in this world? The little princess pouted defiantly. The two held their ground, neither willing to back down. Seeing this, Bolong hurried to mediate, the unspoken murderous intent towards the prince. Finally, the two made a bet. If that guy was a scammer, Lilika would need Adil's approval for any future investments. Conversely, if he wasn't a scammer, Adil couldn't call people Lilika trusted scammers anymore. Adil lost his distance. Since we've argued, shouldn't we separate now? He wanted to leave, but a small hand immediately grabbed him. Adil looked at the girl fiercely. That childish little face seemed to express one thing at a time. Adil, realizing belatedly, smiled. It turns out even if he and Lilika argue like this, it's okay. The little princess curiously asked, what kind of place was her brother's domain? In the north, where it's too cold for most crops to grow, Adil felt that only by developing such land well could Atai be worthy of being emperor. Little Lilika became even more curious. How cold was this cold place? When he used to walk barefoot on the snow, it was like a dog on a scorching blade. The birch forests there are beautiful. There are also blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries. Bears happily eat honey and nuts. Pai's words stirred the little princess's memories. Savoring the sweet and sour taste of raspberry jam, she murmured softly, I also want to pick a whole bucket full. Adil lowered his eyes, pondering for a moment. He suddenly grabbed his sister's hand, leading the group forward with big strides. Even finding it too slow, he picked up his sister. Little Lilika felt a sense of déjà vu. This had clearly happened before. He sent people with attendants to a secret estate. The walls were as tall as 10 Lilikas. As the girl was wondering how to get in, Tai suddenly looked nervous. Is it really okay for your highness to come here? When his gaze shifted to Lilika, Adil's furrowed brow gradually relaxed. It's fine, he said, then peeled away the vines on the secret door. With a click, all four people froze in place. Lilica's eyes lit up with delight. The orchard before them was like heaven. The dazzling array of fruits was even brighter than in her memory. She was so excited she didn't know what to do, firing off several questions in succession. The sister-doting maniac raised the corner of his mouth proudly, urging her to go pick mountain plums. Lilica immediately put the questions out of her mind. She excitedly ran over, carefully picking mountain plums. She collected them one by one in her skirt, but Adil stood still for a long time. His gaze remained fixed on the swing. In his memory, a radiant black-haired woman leaned against her beloved husband. At that moment, they were no longer burdened by royal duties, but two people gazing at each other, promising a lifetime together under the willow's shade. He handed the orchard key to his sister. His frozen heart gradually thawed. Perhaps it was time to let go. Lilica graciously accepted it, but she understood that she would leave this place someday. So, Your Highness, let's be its co-owners. Adil curiously asked, "Why do you still call me Your Highness?" As their gazes intertwined, Lilica noticed Adil's slightly reddened cheeks. Lilica lowered her head, flustered. "What's going on?" Adil scratched his head embarrassedly. "Do I have to spell it out so clearly? Didn't you say we're family?" Suddenly, his arm was tightly hugged by the shy girl. Brother smiled knowingly. A childish voice sounded by his ear. Adil's small expectation finally received the desired response. His sister held his hand like this, quietly returning to the palace. Fresh raspberries were made into ice cream. Lilica eagerly stuffed it into her mouth, her face full of happiness and satisfaction. The royal physician couldn't help but laugh. "Princess, you're eating with such relish." But Lilica mistakenly thought her behavior was improper. The royal physician hurriedly covered his mouth and apologized. If it were other nobles, they would certainly take this as a great offense. Fortunately, this princess doesn't misinterpret others' intentions. She believes whatever others say. But even so, Pai still apologized to Her Highness the Princess. Lilica also knew she was unqualified. After all, a real princess wouldn't ask such questions. Just as she didn't know how to resolve this, she looked down at her empty bowl. She had a sudden idea. Sweetly raising her cup, she gestured to Pai, "If you give me a fruit, I'll forgive you." Unexpectedly, this upset someone's apple cart. He quickly followed, pouring all the berries for Lilica. Seeing Lilica's confused look, the Tsundra brother frantically searched for an excuse in his mind. "If I do something to wrong you in the future, I won't have to apologize every time." Seeing this, Baran followed suit. "Although this is His Highness the Crown Prince's true nature, please take care of him in the future." Lilica didn't care about their bickering, only worried that too many berries would spill out. So she turned to Bryn, sharing half of her berries. She only knew that the berry-filled courtyard was a dreamy paradise, but she didn't know what it meant to Adil. The late empress was of humble origins and suffered much exclusion, so the emperor built a simple country cottage for her in the palace. Later, the empress lived there, rarely going out. That was once a small paradise belonging only to Mother. Now, he gave the key to Lilica, knowing Lilica would take good care of it. Meanwhile, the Ballart family received a letter from the empress, inviting Fyodor to be the princess's etiquette teacher. Although the lady sneered at this, she wanted to take this opportunity to see how lowly that mother and daughter really were. Thinking of the little princess's previous request, Fyodor showed a meaningful smile. Mother Emperor was having a secret meeting with Mama. Little Huang was prevented from entering the room. He waited for 3 days and nights. He finally saw Mama. But strangely, Mama looked haggard, like a different person. Not only was her back sore, but her neck had red spots, and her cheeks had a strange glow. Her eyes were also red. Lilica looked around. It seemed there were bugs in the room. Mama stopped her, coughing lightly. "It's not what you think. I'm fine, but your skin is very swollen and red." Mama was really silly. "It's just bug bites, why be so shy?" Lydia quickly changed the subject. "The Ballart family agreed to let Yul teach you." Little Lilica's heart leaped with joy. They could meet again. Seeing Mama yawn several times, it seemed she was really tired. "What meeting? I heard you've been in meetings with His Majesty." Lydia clenched her fists, gritting her teeth and admitting, yes, that was a one-sided meeting. But at least most things have been discussed. Indeed, a maid brought a letter. It bore the seal of the Ballart family. Little Lilica felt a sense of elation, her heart soft and fuzzy. She took the letter and ran out, grinning foolishly. She really wanted to fly. There happened to be a railing in front of her, and there was no one around. The maid quickly understood. Do you want to slide down sitting? Whoosh! Little Lilica slid down the banister quickly. The stairs were longer than imagined. The speed was faster than expected too. How come there's a sharp turn? Lilica closed her eyes tightly. The next second she flew off. With a loud thud, someone caught her. Lilica's eyes widened. Close your mouth with a smile. Finally, don't close your eyes. You need to find the final landing spot. Unexpectedly, the princess's job includes cleaning the railing. Lilica's face turned bright red. She apologized softly. Altai frowned. I'm not asking to blame you. I really don't know why you're apologizing. His eyes revealed a hint of melancholy. Little Lilica misunderstood. It seems you're satisfied with the meeting results. Altai nodded, savoring. Indeed, I was very satisfied just now. Did you ask your mother too? About that meeting? Little Lilica answered honestly. Mom said your talks went quite smoothly. Altai smiled slightly. Is that all? Tell me honestly, did she say it was a one-sided meeting, implying it was very reluctant? The atmosphere became terribly awkward. Gulene covered her mouth and smiled. Suddenly, there was a bang. Altai's face turned black. He seemed deeply hurt. If that's the case, I'll have to work harder in the future to make both sides of the meeting satisfied. He then staggered away from their sight. Lilica stared at his retreating figure. In any case, I don't think I can let anyone else see this letter now. But when she returned to her bedroom, she ran into her brother waiting for her. The crown prince's softest spot was exposed under the warm sunlight of his sister, living in a seemingly grand and favored palace. Behind it were undercurrents of political games and assassination plots. But whether it's the newly doting father, the tsundere-sensitive brother, the villain coveting the throne, the deep-scheming strategist, the overbearing knight commander, the loyal maid, or the unfamiliar adventurer, all were healed by the angelic Lilica. She followed her heart, constantly growing stronger. Without hesitation, she used her small body to protect her brother. How can one not love her? Adil changed from an annoying, immature tsundere to a standard sister complex. Whenever free, he would go find Lilica. Because he hated people walking back and forth in front of him, he drove away the maids. Poor Bran had to do the work of several maids alone. Hurry up, Bran. As the princess's personal maid, go and deal with those servants who haven't completed their duties. Lilica finally realized, so, you entering my room without permission and acting like the owner, is this not right? Adil nodded proudly. You should also know this concerns my privacy, right? What? Ami family. Little Lilica fell into thought. It seemed to make sense. Soon she was embraced by her brother. Just as she started to say, Your Highness, Adil reminded her to call him brother. You're really like His Majesty. Adil bristled. How are we alike? I never thought that way. But thinking carefully, perhaps that was the only thing he had in common with his uncle. The Emperor's mother wasn't of royal blood either. As a maid from a collateral branch told him when he was young, they were mixed bloods. Little Lilica suddenly remembered. Mom said to let me choose guards. Would you like to join? Adil flatly refused. That guy who had been a guard for 8 years wanted to kill him. But I'll worry about you. Adil's hand paused. His father's last words flashed through his mind. Lilica put her hand on her brother's shoulder. My intuition is very accurate, you know? When bad people appear, I feel uncomfortable inside. When I was little, there was a grandma who gave candy to children. Everyone happily followed her. Only Lilica didn't take any candy or follow. Later we found out that Grandma was a child trafficker. Hearing this, everyone's face showed shock. There was also an uncle who gave children pocket money and offered job opportunities. Later I heard he did bad things to the children. Although I'm not sure, he probably starved or beat them. Adil's eyes were full of pain and anger. So even if I can't help you choose the best guard, at least I can avoid the worst one. Before she finished, she was suddenly held tightly by her brother. Lilica let out a squeak. Her little face turned red, not because she was startled by her brother. Then you can poke out one of my pears. I want to poke out 2 of his. This child's body was both warm and small. Even when angry, she didn't look scary at all. She was rather cute. She was so small and fragile, yet encountered such things. Serfdom in the Empire had only nominally disappeared. Although strictly prohibited by law, it still existed in reality. If this little one had been sold back then, just thinking about it made him shudder. He promised to choose guards together with his sister. But before that, he had to deal with another matter. Lilica stared at her brother's back. She hadn't told Adil yet that she wanted to invite Jord to the palace. It should be fine to tell him later, right? Little did she know this would lead to a big fight between them. The little girl wanted to make a charm for her loved one, but it unexpectedly caused her family to fight over it. At first, she just wanted to renovate the mountain plum garden to scare Adele a bit, then return the key to her brother. First, she needed to understand the courtyard, but those professional terms were too difficult. While looking for another book, a small booklet fell from the side. The title instantly attracted Lilica. Heart-throbbing magic book for girls. Lilica focused intently on reading it. The contents of the book were bizarre. There were methods to make charms for loved ones, how to make the person you like appear in your dreams, how to keep secrets. Lilica's little face turned red as she read. She buried her face in the book. Coughing softly a few times, she thought, I'm borrowing this secretly. I'll put it back after reading. The sudden appearance of Maid Bryn startled her. She hurriedly hid the book under her pillow. With an uneasy heart, she returned to her bedroom that night, skipping the part she had read earlier, saving your loved one from crisis. Little Lilica's eyes lit up. This was it. She wanted to make a charm for her brother. The materials were relatively simple, but she had never seen a gold coin before. Was there no way to earn gold coins? All right, she still had the adventurer Ubaya. Little Lilica clasped her hands together, praying earnestly. Please let Ubaya return safely. Hope he can escape danger. Don't let anything bad happen to him. Then bring back lots and lots of good things. Please let me get some gold coins too. As a result, during the day, her doting father waved his hand and took them to buy Xiang Duo Bao. You're too skinny. It's obvious you haven't been eating well. But I ate 2 sausages this morning. No wonder you're nothing but skin and bones. After saying this, the emperor pulled open a drawer. He handed another handful to Lilica. The precious little purse was stuffed full. He only stopped when it was completely full. Then he rubbed her little head. His Majesty's hand had become much softer. Lilica smiled brightly, although still not quite natural. It was indeed an expression of love. They really were alike. Returning to count carefully, looking at the crystal-clear emeralds, Lilica imagined a summer courtyard, and sapphires the same color as her brother's eyes. As for this amber, saying this, Lilica suddenly paused. She couldn't help but think of Biuer. She covered her blushing little face. A round bead rolled around. Maid Bryn reminded her from the side, this is a top-quality pearl. She held the pearl up to the sunlight. It was so beautiful. After a while, little Lilica hummed a tune as she ran back to her room. But no matter what she did, she couldn't find the little pink book hidden under her pillow. What's going on? Where did it go? Princess, are you looking for this? Lilica turned around and looked. That's right, it was that. Looking at this book, the title on the cover was too eye-catching, so she had covered it with a book jacket for the princess. Little Lilica gratefully threw herself into Bryn's arms. Princess, really? Where on earth did you find that book? The prince almost killed his sister's sweetheart. Lilica cried and sent her brother away, yet she still didn't blame him at all. When she discovered the little yellow girl reading a love guide, Maid Bryn sighed at how time flies. The princess already has someone she likes so quickly. Could it be the Knight Commander? Or perhaps the Prime Minister? It certainly couldn't be those 2 snobbish kids. Lilica leaned close to Bryn's ear, whispering softly, I want to make a charm. For my brother, father, and mother. And for you too. Adorable Lilica instantly captured her heart. For the princess, love between men and women was still too distant. Little did she know that the seeds of love had already been quietly planted in Lilica's heart. In the letter sent from Duke Balot's house, Jord inquired about his entry to the palace. Bryn suggested selecting guards as soon as possible. They needed to be constantly vigilant against the Balot family, so she went to find Crown Prince Adil, asking her brother to help choose guards with her. The subordinates looked pitifully haggard. Not long ago, the prince suddenly asked them to investigate the capital's security records. The words were pushed back by the crown prince. Enough talk. All right, let's go. Seeing his sister following closely behind him, Adil couldn't help but tease her. Are you a maid? Lilica immediately retorted. That's because you're walking too fast. Adil flipped his hair. You need to learn how to ride a horse. The next second, she was suddenly picked up in a princess carried by her brother. That familiar feeling came again when the 2 arrived at the door, but they were told that the Knight Commander wasn't there. Adil wanted to go back, but he couldn't refuse his sister's insistence on waiting. If they didn't choose now, her brother might change his mind next time. A familiar horn appeared in her field of vision. Looking up, it was Sir Ralph who had escorted her before. They had parted on bad terms when he was released from prison, so Lilica had asked the commander to apologize on her behalf. But strangely, you're wearing casual clothes today. Are you on holiday? Ralph opened his mouth to deny it. In that instant, a sense of death filled Lilica's mind. Her whole body trembled. Ralph frankly said, "I'm going back to my hometown." Lilica didn't know why, but now Ralph gave her the feeling of that assassination attempt back then. But everything was fine just now. What should she do? Adil immediately put his arm around Lilica's shoulders. What happened? What did this guy just say? The first time she disobeyed her mother, what fell from her mother's eyes were not slaps, but tears. The suffocating feeling of death made her whole body tense. She tried to comfort herself, it's okay. Her brother was right behind her, until she spoke up to keep him. "Ralph, would you like to be my guard knight?" Ralph was stunned. Those sincere eyes gave him hope. "Are you serious?" "Of course. If you don't want to, I won't force you." At this moment, the alarm in Lilica's mind gradually subsided. It seemed that not letting him return home was the right choice. Lilica said, "I can hire you." But Adil immediately stopped her. "Since this guy was going to leave, it proves you're not qualified. You're really thick-skinned." Lilica ignored her opposition. "That's not the point now." She hugged her brother tightly, making Adil forget. After thinking, he turned to tell Ralph, "How about I give you a pearl?" Because Bryn had said it was extremely valuable. That should be enough as salary, right? Ralph was very surprised. "So you were serious." Meanwhile, Adil was flustered by his sister's sudden closeness. He looked back, and in the moment their eyes met with Ralph's earnest gaze. He said, "I'm willing." Time seemed to freeze at that moment. That suffocating feeling completely disappeared. Seeing Ralph kneeling before Lilica, Adil had no choice but to support his sister's decision. He took his sister's hand and extended it forward, passing it to Ralph's hand. The man offered the knight's oath kiss. "I'll be loyal to you." Lilica couldn't hide her joy. For the first time, she had changed a premonition through action. It turned out that not only did she not have to run away, but she could also change that feeling. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. The knight commander, who happened to witness this scene, was confused. Lilica explained, learning that the princess had chosen Ralph as her guard. The commander didn't object. Lilica even volunteered, "I'll help choose guards for my brother too. My intuition is very good." Then came a line of handsome knights standing in a row. The commander's gaze remained fixed on Lilica's serious little face. He looked left and right. She quickly whispered her choice into her brother's ear. Among the 5 people, she eliminated the first 3. The commander stared at the little princess in disbelief. After the crown prince left, he asked Her Highness how she made her judgment. Lilica looked towards the dark side. "They're not very good to invite. Hosting mortal enemies vying for the throne with her brother." Little did she know, the crown prince was drowning in self-reproach. He shouldn't always say hurtful things to Lilica. Yet he had never realized it. "You just said to princess, she follows you like a maid. How come she can't even ride a horse?" Adil's face reddened. "But what I said was true. Think about it the other way around. If the princess spoke to you in that manner." The crown prince suddenly had a pang of conscience. He dejectedly asked the boy, was she hurt? But everyone knew. The princess wouldn't think too much of it. However, if you keep this up, one day she'll truly be hurt. Adil was on high alert. He would definitely be more careful from now on. The boy leaned in and suggested, "If you feel really bad about it, why not give the princess a gift? Didn't you receive a gift recently? That beautiful cream-colored pony with the pretty mane. How about giving it to the princess? After all, Her Highness is still small. It's more suitable for her to ride around this vast solar palace." "That's right. If I give her a horse, she'll definitely be happy." Meanwhile, the little princess and the royal knight commander were in a meeting. Knowing Ralph didn't have the ability to stay in the Knight Order, Lilica still firmly chose him as her guard. The dangerous aura around the man made Lilica breathless. But that was only when he said he wanted to return to his hometown. After she said she'd hire him, that feeling disappeared. The Knight Commander and Ralph are from the same place. Could something have happened there? The commander hesitated to speak. The next moment, he stood up decisively. "I didn't expect that guy to be entrusted by you. If anything happens in the future, please don't hesitate to tell me. I will do my utmost to help. Thank you sincerely for employing Ralph, Your Highness." Little Lilica shyly said it was nothing. Bryn beside her understood the implications. This meant that the princess had gained the Knight Commander's wholehearted support. To have obtained such a connection so easily, my master is truly amazing. Afterwards, little Lilica held Ralph's hand. "Let me tell you, we're having guests tomorrow. It's my first time inviting outside guests to the palace for tea. I really hope the weather will be nice tomorrow. I want to spend a pleasant time with him. Soon, the anticipated guest from outside the palace finally arrived. Bjorn of the Ballard family, paying respects to the esteemed narrator, he said, taking the little princess's hand and shyly kissing the back of it. Then he looked up with a faint smile, deep golden eyes concealing a hint of potential danger. This series of actions left Lilica completely defenseless. Her heart was screaming wildly. For this day, Lilica had not only written several letters, but also urgently appointed a guard knight to prevent any mistakes. She had made thorough preparations. The only thing she hadn't anticipated was losing her composure. It was entirely because the boy's beauty was too dazzling. Plus, he had completely changed from his previous lazy demeanor. He was just too elegant, incredibly elegant. She noticed the boy wasn't performing the curtsy today. Bjorn raised his eyes to meet hers. Because this is an occasion where I need to formally greet you. I never imagined you would actually invite me here. Noticing the guard behind the princess, he curiously asked, didn't you hire a knight from the royal guard? Little Lilica frankly admitted, people would definitely gossip behind my back. Everyone would surely wonder, why couldn't Princess Lilica choose someone from the royal guard as her protector? Is this differential treatment towards an adopted daughter? The royal adopted daughter had never thought she'd be treated differently by her father and mother. Yet the royal enemy was testing step by step how naive she was. Lilica was as pure as a blank sheet. Even if I'm adopted, aren't I still part of the Tucker royal family? Bjorn paused for a moment. Yes, you're right. Dragons don't care about mosquitoes at all. The little princess denied. Dragons also really hate the buzzing of mosquitoes. I don't know much about royal issues. Anyway, His Majesty will handle it himself. Lilica's naive way of doing things was different from the education Bjorn had received since childhood. Your Highness, you are truly naive. As a member of the Tucker royal family, you actually say such things in front of a Ballard family member. But he couldn't say the next sentence. If Duke Ballard heard what you just said, he would surely tear you to pieces. Out of kindness, he asked if the princess had any confidants, meaning noble peers with whom she could discuss various topics. Learning she had none, he wanted to tell the little princess about the rumors concerning Her Majesty the Queen. But Lilica instinctively thought, could it be that Mom got drunk again and was arrested for making a scene? Bjorn explained it's not like that. This new dessert called tiramisu before them was popularized by Her Majesty the Queen. Besides that, all clothing stores in the capital received countless orders. Everyone wanted to order the basil dress worn by the Queen at her wedding. She recently put down an arrogant and overbearing marchioness, and even successfully calmed a suddenly enraged horse. If the Queen hadn't been there at the time, Baroness Erin would have been in danger. Little Lilica began to doubt her own memory. Was that really her mother? Mom was still that beautiful Mom. Although she had become surprisingly gentle, Mom is still Mom. She's the one who always needs me to take care of her. Bjorn leaned closer to the little princess. So what do you think about me being your painting companion? That expression didn't look like he was joking. Little Lilica couldn't answer for a moment. Generally, people introduce painting companions to those in power. He suddenly realized, it seems I'm not truly in power yet. Is that why no one has introduced any to me? Bjorn was almost startled into spitting. It seems only she herself hadn't realized. In the current capital, the hot potato comparable to the Queen was her Princess Lilica. But she was completely unaware of this fact. When little Lilica used to live in the slums, she was always busy working, with no time to make friends. What do noble friends usually do together? Although she liked Bryn, she couldn't play with her like a friend. So when she becomes an excellent princess, surely someone will want to be her painting companion. Then please teach me how to curtsy now. Bjorn perfectly demonstrated the first step. The little princess saw it and applauded repeatedly. The boy told her, when curtsying, to put aside other distracting thoughts. Imagine yourself as the most beautiful person in the world. Meanwhile, the crown prince decided to go directly to Lilica. Finally giving a gift for once, he wanted to surprise his sister. That girl would surely like him very much. The historically ugliest princess was being brainwashed by the villain. Please repeat after me. I'm the most beautiful person in the world. Lilica stuttered as she repeated. After all, she wasn't like her mother, who had a head of pitch-black golden hair and colorful, dewy skin. Bjorn took her hand, encouraging her. you're beautiful. You're like a tree spirit. Your hair shimmers with a green luster, and these eyes are just like a green lake under the sunlight. So please be more confident. Say it again. He then raised his left hand. I'm the most beautiful person in the world. Lilica still lacked confidence. The next second, the scene changed dramatically. A loud voice echoed through the hall. This was simply a form of mental torture, having to say such things in front of someone more beautiful than oneself. After a long etiquette guidance, Lilica's movements were still stiff. Bjorn was puzzled. There aren't many people the princess needs to curtsy to. Do you need to learn so hard? Lilica pouted. Even if there aren't many, I still want to show those few people properly. Mom would surely praise her darling for being elegant. Father would give her compliments. Her royal brother would also be proud of her. Little Lilica suddenly had an epiphany. What she possessed wasn't beauty, but something else. Then, with a red face, she muttered, I am the cutest person in the world. Although saying this was also very embarrassing, it was what Mom would say to her every day. The most obedient Lilica in the world, I love you. So at least she could say this sentence. I'm cute. Yes, very cute. That cute posture made Bjorn think of a robin, and he couldn't help but chuckle. Lilica nervously clenched her little hands. Am I strange? Bjorn immediately denied it. I just thought you looked like a robin. He adjusted Lilica's bow tie, while affirming, a cute robin, Your Highness. The corners of her mouth gradually turned upward. The two smiled at each other. Lilica sincerely complimented. I think you're like a silver artwork. Bjorn lowered his brows and smiled indulgently. I really want to apply to be your painting companion now. As soon as he finished speaking, the maid Nyren came with drinks. You two must be tired. Please have some refreshing juice. Little did they know, the crown prince had already arrived outside the door. He hushed the guard from announcing him, wanting to surprise his sister. He ignored the obstruction and opened the door, happily calling out, Lily, I was wrong yesterday. I'm sorry. His apology was cut short as he opened his eyes. How could the royal political enemy be behind his dear sister? The person who wished for his death and to take his place. At this moment, he was smiling and putting down his wine glass, respectfully bowing to the crown prince. The crown prince's words were not yet finished. He was grabbed by the collar by the rushing Attil. No one had time to stop him. Lilica stood there bewildered, not knowing what to do. The wine glass fell to the ground. Attil's hands trembled. How are you here? His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Angry Attil transformed into a sea king. The first wall slam. A scene of the little son saving the gloomy villain unfolded. But these injuries meant nothing to Bjorn. As the heir to the Ballot family, he had always been required to endure all pain. From childhood, he was instilled with explosive values. His mother imposed her own thoughts on him. Lilica and his mother were lowly people, because tyrants and evil women were a perfect match. So their daughter Lilica was also an evil woman. But when Bjorn saw Lilica, he realized everyone around him had indeed been lying. For him, who was still a child then, the world described by his family was everything. His mother even instilled in him, all our suffering is because of the crown prince. Whether it was his own suffering or his father's death, it was all thanks to the crown prince. But when Bjorn first met Attil, he realized that the so-called object of hatred was just a child about his own age. Even Attil despised Bjorn. It was then that he understood where the source of his pain came from. His mother wanted to stand at the pinnacle of power, so she tried everything, even uniting with someone she despised to give birth to a noble child, while he was still immersed in becoming part of the noblest family. All of this was interrupted by Lilica and her mother. His Majesty even disregarded the pressure from the nobles and made the mother and daughter queen and princess. So he again abused Bjorn. This also made Bjorn extremely interested in Lilica, because his mother hated them, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend. In Bjorn's fantasy, their interaction should be like this. Princess, how evil are you? I will fill your cup with arsenic. But when they actually met, facing the kind Lilica, Bjorn realized he had been deceived by his mother again. Bjorn was ultimately attracted to Lilica. He looked forward to their next meeting every day. Looking into Lilica's clear eyes, Bjorn knew he had made the wrong decision. The warmth at his fingertips seemed to melt him, but Lilica only worried about his injuries. You must be in a lot of pain. When Bjorn wanted to answer what was in his heart, a wave of dizziness came over him. Faced with Lilica's concern and worried expression, he couldn't say a word. This feeling was so sweet. He grabbed Lilica's hand. Don't touch me. Otherwise, I might become even stranger. What's happening? Why do my fingertips feel tingly? My head feels hot. He seemed unable to think. The Sea King had fallen in love. Nothing in the world was more profound. Judging from his reaction, they probably wouldn't be able to meet again in the future. But the princess still had a knot in her heart. Brother, why do you dislike Bjorn? Attila laughed bitterly. Don't you think it's too direct to ask such a question to someone who came to apologize? Although angry, he still explained personally, if I die, Bjorn would ascend to the throne. Lilica was so scared she hiccuped. Her little hands clasped together, begging her brother not to die. Attila was both embarrassed and speechless. That guy's deceased father was my uncle. Besides me, he's next in line for the royal succession. Moreover, the Ballot family has intermarried with the royal family for generations, while my mother can barely be considered nobility. So in terms of legitimacy, that guy might be more qualified than me. The attendant quickly corrected him. The person next in line after you now, isn't it Princess Lilica? At these words, everyone was dumbfounded. As long as it's someone from the Takal family. Even without full power, he's still the second heir. The stunned crown prince also came to his senses. His reconciliation gift had arrived. He pointed towards a small foal in the distance. About yesterday, I'm sorry. I was too rough with your guest. Lilica smiled brightly. I've already forgiven you, but thank you for apologizing to me. He first lowered his head, then immediately raised it and leaned against his brother, making his already embarrassed brother's face even redder. Little Lilica decided to name the foal Venus, because it had a star on its forehead. Attila told her to try riding it, but she had never ridden a horse before. Before she could react, her brother lifted her onto the horse's back. You'll understand once you've ridden it. The attendant thought of something. For the Ballot family to secure the throne, they would have to eliminate the princess. But upon further thought, there was another way. That would be to have Bjorn marry the princess. The next second, a scream echoed through the courtyard. Attila warned him not to talk nonsense. Those guys are afraid of the Ballot bloodline being tainted. He finished with a knowing smile to the guard. On the other side in the field, Lilica looked serious. Ralph, yesterday when they were fighting, why did you stop me from breaking it up? Because such behavior is dangerous. Besides, I believe they would surely accept your mediation later. If you had intervened from the start, His Highness the Crown Prince would have become angrier. His Highness likes you very much. In his view, you're on his side. If you had sided with someone he dislikes, he surely wouldn't have tolerated it. But after they each punch the other, they'll think, oh no, in their hearts. So at that time, no matter who intervenes, it would succeed. Lilica didn't know what to do. Since there was a fight in the White Dragon Pavilion, I should have stepped in to resolve it from the beginning. At such times, you could just order me to do it. As long as you command me to handle the situation, no matter what method, I will accomplish it for you. Lilica looked at Ralph. Can I ask you to do such things? She hesitated before speaking. I not only want to be your shield, but also your sword. I hope you don't mind. In front of Lilica, who was still a child, adults usually spoke quite casually, but he was being so cautious, always treading carefully. Perhaps it was because she wasn't relaxed enough when facing Ralph. After all, he took Ralph away just to make the ominous premonition disappear. So she couldn't view him as fully trustworthy, and Ralph knew this. That's why he was being so careful with her. She suddenly patted Ralph's head with her small hand. I understand. From now on, I'll treat you as my shield and sword. If I encounter any difficulties, I'll definitely call for you. You must appear okay. Perhaps to be an excellent princess, one doesn't need to personally handle everything. Trusting and relying on important people around you, then having better ideas and making wiser judgments. This way, someday, I'll truly become an excellent princess. At this moment, Her Majesty the Queen was announced. Lilica immediately turned around excitedly. She shouted Mama towards the distant figure. Hearing her sweet daughter's voice, the Queen turned back just as excitedly. That fleeting glance alone could make countless men lose everything just for her smile. Lilica rushed over and kissed her mother's cheek. At this moment, the Queen shot a sharp glance at the old man. Until now, he had only just heard the news about the guard knight being appointed. How dare they let such a person stay by my daughter's side, especially someone who died in the previous life. He forced a smile. Lily, I have something to tell you. Let's sit down first. About the new guard chosen for you. I want to change it to someone I approve of. Is that all right? A great empire fought over this woman, yet she chose to be the dragon's empress. Not for power or status, but to save her daughter who was burned alive in the previous life while protecting him. However, this was the first time he got angry at Lilica. Ralph Wolf was chosen as his daughter's guard. As far as he knew, the man was dismissed in the previous life, went mad after returning to his hometown, and was rumored to be the monster of the Black Forest. He was soon hunted down and killed. Because of this, the wolf family head resigned from his position as Knight Commander. How dare someone put such a monster by my daughter's side? He gently stroked Lilika's head. Mama wants to choose a guard for you. Is that okay? But the little princess had her own thoughts. Mama, I still want Ralph to continue protecting me. Lilika, who always obeyed her mother, refused the suggestion for the first time. I'm doing this because I'm worried about you. That person isn't even a knight. Why insist on him? But Lilika was very firm. I trust Ralph. These words struck her mother hard. She trusts that monster's words more than mine. No, I must be more assertive. She let go of Lilika's hand. I'll handle this myself. I'll replace him with someone else. You just need to know. She thought to herself, I'm doing this for her own good, so please listen to me. When Lilika tried to communicate with her mother, the queen almost blurted out, Mama doesn't like disobedient children. Fortunately, she held back at the last second. At this moment, Bueling spoke up timely, I'm sorry, Your Majesty. Could you listen to the princess's reasons for this decision? Seeing Lilika's trembling, determined eyes, the queen's pupils contracted slightly. She knew Lilika couldn't fully trust her yet. After all, she had done such things before. Of course, she should start from now, to take time to build trust. With this thought, she had been constantly trying. However, even today, does Lilika still think she's an unreliable person? Everything I've worked hard for is for you. You don't even understand this. I'm doing all this for her good. I would never harm her. Suddenly, she jolted awake, remembering herself from the previous life. How could I harm you? I'm doing all this for you. What does it matter if the Count is already 70 years old? Marrying him will get you his property. Lilika from the slums became a countess. What a great success this is. Who else but your mother would foolishly plan your future like this? You understand, right, Lilika? Through this marriage, if we can use the Count's private army to successfully rebel, becoming the ruler of the Ballot Duke's family isn't just a dream. At this moment, fierce flames also ignited in the queen's mind. What couldn't be burned away was her guilt towards Lilika. Although she always said she loved her, fundamentally, everything she did was no different from her previous life. The queen, coming to her senses, looked at the worried Lilika. She made a compromise. Can we talk privately? Lilika blushed, not knowing what was happening. Her mother's eyes were full of tears, but she tried to smile. I won't change your guard arbitrarily. Little Lilika's eyes widened with joy upon hearing this. However, to put someone like a ticking time bomb next to my precious daughter, it's indeed hard to accept. Can you tell me why you chose Ralph? Why do you want him to continue protecting you? She spoke halfway and couldn't help but cry again. She covered her face and apologized. Mama made a mistake again. I was foolish again. I didn't mean to be like this. But why do I always end up hurting you? This time, I'm truly determined to change everything. I really love you. To me, you're the most important person in this world. This time, I want to see Lily grow up like a flower bathing in sunlight, maturing in abundant love. Even if you hate me and stay away from me, I'll still love you. I'm sorry I always cry. It's very unbecoming, isn't it? The queen doesn't know how to be a good mother. But for Lilika, having her mother still around is the best outcome. I love you too, Mama. The 3-year-old girl spoke for the first time. She unexpectedly unleashed the blessing power lost for 1,000 years. When she devoutly recited the 3-character classic, man's nature at birth is fundamentally good. Please grant me strength. In an instant, ordinary gold coins turned into relationship charms. The next day, she made it into an amulet and gave it to her brother. Hearing it's only given to loved ones, Attil was immediately overjoyed. Unexpectedly, the one behind him shone even brighter. Bueling proudly showed off his limited edition silver coin. In fact, it was obtained through begging. You are the queen who just received a gift. Immediately cupping her daughter's chubby cheeks, she kissed them wildly. The emperor was curious about what it was. Rudia proudly boasted, it's an amulet to protect her beloved mother. His Majesty stared at the runes, pondering for a long time. Afterwards, he patted Lily's head. I don't need one. Thank you. The royal couple held the little princess's hands. They occasionally exchanged sweet words. My wife is truly lovable. Although the little princess knew they were a contractual couple, now she also saw their act of being a loving couple as work. If the princess and prince from fairy tales really existed, wouldn't it feel just like this? Although they were the queen and king, before leaving, they kissed each other goodbye. As soon as the queen left, His Majesty turned to ask Lily, did you make that amulet yourself? The little princess was stunned for a moment. She hesitantly began to speak, but before she could explain the reason, His His Majesty suddenly lifted her up and ordered that no one was to follow them. In just the blink of an eye, he teleported with the little princess to the royal garden. Little Lilica ran behind His Majesty. "Are you a magician?" "Not exactly, but similar. This is the dragon race's omnipotence." The little princess giggled shyly. "I thought it was the ability to freeze people." "I can freeze people too." "All right, now tell me, how did you make the amulet you gave to your mother?" After explaining, Lilica excitedly asked. At that time, that gold coin was incredibly bright. Even Bueling was surprised. His Majesty affirmed, "So, someone knows about your magic abilities. But it's fine if it's the people from Salga. If others find out about this, it could be troublesome. You must keep it a secret. Also, put that book back where it belongs." Although the book itself has no power, its intent is dangerous. Using magic to sway people's hearts is extremely perilous. In this world, only 3 types of beings can use magic. First are the dragons from distant legends. Second are the born ones. Third are the great mages who can turn back time or distort space. However, since they lost their homeland and lived with humans on this land, none have survived. Although Lily has magical talent, she doesn't possess the powerful abilities of past great mages. While the probability is very low, due to genetic inheritance, people with magical aptitude are still born to this day. However, they can only heal minor injuries and illnesses. Yet she possesses the power of blessing. "Let me teach you magic," little Lilica excitedly asked. "When do we start?" "Come to think of it, doesn't he possess all the characteristics of a mage? Not only strong, but also with a kind heart." He suddenly remembered the woman who once professed her love for him. Muttering to himself, "Why now? A mage appears before me again. And why is it you?" At this moment, even I am drawn into this. In a flash, His Majesty disappeared before her eyes. The little hand she had just extended grasped at nothing. After realizing what happened, the little princess tapped her fist. So that was magical teleportation. But how was she supposed to get out now? Is this what they call being stranded? Standing on tiptoes, she saw the distant palace. But no matter how much she walked, it remained far away. If only the fairy godmother could come help her now. But that seemed unlikely. Suddenly, the bushes rustled. She looked back, her jaw dropping in surprise. A dark-skinned boy appeared, panting heavily. "Bjorn, why are you here?" The boy was equally surprised. "Why are you here, Your Highness?" The crown prince had beaten him up. The male lead then became completely infatuated with his sister Lilica. The princess was still a child, for years younger than him. Yet he couldn't stop thinking about those snow-white black eyes. Just as he was about to climb through the window to see Lilica, he overheard his mother plotting to assassinate the queen. His first thought was to quickly tell the girl. He teleported to the royal family's exclusive garden. But when he turned around, he saw Lilica standing there alone. He hurried over to her. "Why are you here?" Lilica said she was lost, but I should be asking why you're here. Before getting an answer, she was pulled away by Bjorn. "I'll take you through a shortcut. It's urgent." As they ran, he said, "I have news to tell you. There will be a fire at the Grand Theater today. Once you get out, please make sure to tell others about this." But looking down, it was already too late. Bjorn continued to hold her hand as they ran, but Lilica's gaze remained blank, as if her mind was empty. Like a puppet, she suddenly collapsed to the ground, mumbling "Mama" repeatedly. "Mama is there, but with such a big fire, what should I do? If Mama dies, she's my only family. If she's gone too, I don't want to." The boy suddenly cupped her small face. "Pull yourself together. Lilica, now is not the time to cry." Lilica gradually came to her senses from her breakdown. Trembling, she placed her hand on his and nodded. The next second, her eyes became incredibly determined. The two ran without stopping. "The fire is so fierce over there. The Capitol Guard must have already been deployed. Her Majesty the Queen will surely be all right." He brought the little princess to the exit. He was about to leave. "You should go quickly now." Then he smiled meaningfully. "Who knows when we'll meet again?" Lilica nodded bravely and ran towards the maze exit. Bjorn knew what punishment awaited him, but he didn't regret it. Even if it was for Lilica's sake, Her Majesty the Queen must return safely. By now, the theater courtyard was engulfed in flames. Lilica and the crown prince rushed there by carriage. Suddenly, there was a clap of thunder. Lilica leaned out the window to look. A sudden downpour extinguished the fire. Lilica quickly got out of the carriage. Tears flowed uncontrollably. Finally, she saw the person she wanted to see in the crowd, saying "Mama, Mama," while expressing her love and blaming herself. When crying, she had to hold her mama tightly. Mama had been engulfed by the fire, but escape death. Yet she couldn't help in any way. She could only stand there foolishly. When she tried to support her Mama just patted her head. I'm fine. I can't let a leg injury. At that moment, Mama was incredibly radiant. She didn't speak, so she just watched quietly. Lucia turned back and winked at her. Only then did Lilica come to her senses. She watched from afar as His Majesty supported Mama. At that moment, she felt Mama was so distant, beyond her reach. At this time, cheers erupted from the street. Countless citizens shouted, "Long live Her Majesty, the Queen." Goddard also marveled, what kind of being is she after all? A queen who doesn't hesitate to get injured to save people. After escaping danger, she doesn't immediately return to the palace, but celebrates here. Uproar tomorrow. The royal family's prestige will surely rise because of this. Under the sky with a rainbow, in that dazzling scenery stood the beloved, perfect emperor and queen, as if they had stepped out of a painting. No matter how impressive Mama was in rumors, do it. She needed me to always be by her side to help her. But now Mama standing there seemed like she would immediately say, from now on, even without your help, I can stand alone in this world. I no longer need your help. Goodbye, Lilica. Tears silently fell, carrying a myriad of thoughts. Tired. For Lucia, only Lily mattered most. Does she still not trust me even now? His Majesty lit candles. It's too dark in this environment for humans. But he quickly noticed that she seemed afraid of fire. If she had hidden, it wouldn't have been wrong. I'm afraid of these small flames. Usually, I don't pay attention to them, so I thought I had completely overcome it. But it turns out I haven't. Today's fire spread quickly and fiercely, as if someone had prepared in advance. Just like in my previous life, the fire frantically licked everything. He knew long ago that there would be a fire at the Grand Theater today, so he made a series of preparations. I thought knowing the future would make things different, so I confidently went to the theater. However, just knowing the future doesn't mean everything. The moment I saw the fire, my body froze. I couldn't move at all. I can't die. I haven't changed fate yet, but this looked exactly like the fire on the stake. I absolutely can't leave Lily like this. Please move. With these thoughts, the charm Lilica gave me suddenly fell. It helped stabilize my emotions. Lucia adjusted her breathing. Calm down. Thought clearly. Everyone stay calm. I, the Empress, am here. I will not abandon you and run away. So please remain calm and follow orders. Until the last person escapes, I will stay here. After that, thanks to His Majesty's arrival, His Majesty became more curious about her. She was so scared then, but still bravely smiled and led everyone to safety. Lucia said with a grin, "Isn't that also part of the contract?" Indeed. Fortunately, an excellent wife like you wasn't burned to death. You might have nightmares tonight. Do you want me to hold your hand beside you? At this moment, Bryn came to report something. Lilica's personal made Lucia immediately jumped out of bed. Did something happen to Lily? Bryn explained that the princess had been feeling down, so the crown prince had just come. Through the door crack, Lilica was sobbing in her brother's arms. What should I do if Mama doesn't want me anymore? What should I do? Bound together by the so-called family name, the reborn mother remarried to the emperor who turned into a dragon. The prince with no blood relation. Even her brother had thought about killing her. Lily knows. No one in this world is born to be kind to you. But Mama is an exception. But if even Mama doesn't want her, what should she do? Hearing this, Mama and brother were both startled. How can Mama not want you? She's such a virtuous mother. Lily sadly leaned on her brother's chest. But Mama is really beautiful. She could have left me anytime. She didn't abandon me only because I could make money. But now, Mama is strong and beautiful enough without me. She no longer needs me. You just said it yourself. Someone like me can't help. The frightened brother hurriedly explained. There were too many people gathered just now. It was dangerous, and you're so small and weak. Also, you didn't bring many guards. But on second thought, saying this now would only have the opposite effect. Just as he was at a loss, colorful black hair appeared before his eyes. Mama hugged Lily and apologized in her ear. So you've been protecting me all along. I'm sorry I never knew. If it weren't for the charm you gave me today, I wouldn't have made it out of there. Even if they're family, no matter how much they love each other, if it's not said out loud, they won't understand that they're like that charm to each other. I never knew how excellent Lily was in the past. Because I didn't know, I ignored and trampled on her efforts. Only now do I understand. There's still so much for me to learn. It turns out she's been protecting me all along. From now on, let's protect each other. And this time, We'll definitely have a happy ending. What are you doing? The emperor slowly walked towards the bedroom. Otto said he didn't want to disturb the mother and daughter. His Majesty glanced into the room. It seems there's no room for me to intervene. He was so troubled before, but now he looks completely satisfied. Is that what good parents are like? He was curious why Otto had never asked him anything. You must have a lot of questions for me, right? About this suddenly appearing uncle with an unknown background. Otto said he had nothing to ask. Who knew the uncle would start talking on his own? When your father found me, I said I didn't want him to leave, but he desperately tried to convince me to go with him. In the end, I promised him I would only protect you when you were young, until you ascended the throne. That's why the dragon was invited from the desert to here. You were still small then. I seem to be an immature guardian too. But seeing you grow up so big now, I'm quite proud. So, don't you have anything you want to cry about like that? Battle turned away, his gaze sunder alike. I'm not a child like Lily. When father passed away, he told me to see you as a father. And you haven't been particularly bad to me lately. His Majesty chuckled softly. It's strange. He was once betrayed by humans he had wholeheartedly helped and lost everything. So he lived in seclusion somewhere in the world, hating humans. But recently, he felt that becoming human might not be such a bad thing. By now, the mother and daughter in the room were fast asleep. His Majesty said he would stay by their side. The Empress had a near-death experience today. Her condition might worsen. This scared Otto greatly. His uncle couldn't possibly be so considerate. At this moment, Lily called out her brother's name. Half asleep, she reached out her little hands towards the two, mumbling brother with a silly smile for a while. Otto, quickly. His Majesty didn't understand what this meant. Is she feeling unwell somewhere? Otto understood immediately. She seems to want me to lie down with her and lull her to sleep, like how we used to hold hands while sleeping. His Majesty got under the covers without a second thought. What are you standing there for? It's good to lie down beside her. Are you sure you won't? And so, the family of four lay on one bed, under the same blanket. Lily tightly held her brother's hand and quickly fell back into a sweet dream. Otto was also yawning. At this time, a hand was placed over his eyes. His Majesty was gentle for the first time. Sleep. Even if they're bound together by the so-called family name, they're still different individuals. Although they may misunderstand and fear each other due to different ways and forms of love, as long as they can muster the courage, it will surely be all right. Even if it's just being honest once. Because they're family, it's easy to be hurt by each other. Because they're family, they can overcome difficulties. Also because they're family, sometimes they can't forgive each other, and sometimes they can. Whether blood relations still fear sincerity, or due to poor social skills, every action is misunderstood. But as long as they confirm they love each other, that's family, right? So, we're family too, right? His Majesty slowly opened his eyes, quietly watching Lily snoring. He remembered how the Empress was protected by the charm today. She decided to teach Lilica magic in advance. People cursed them as a pair of black fox spirits, saying the mother bewitched the emperor, and the daughter disrupted the royal family. But only those who loved them knew that the little princess's existence healed the palace. Even so, how could an adopted daughter have royal etiquette? This favoritism far exceeded her rightful status. His Majesty said it was nothing, since this child is a magician. Giving her more power to protect herself is better, isn't it? After careful consideration, Lilica entrusted it to her mother. She was still young and asked her mother to act as proxy for her domain. She didn't have the confidence to be responsible for this land and its people yet. While Mom was thinking, His Majesty secretly leaned to her ear. We'll start magic lessons tonight. Bring everything written on this. At this time, Lucia complained about a tear. You're in my room, giving such things to Lily. Isn't that just like a tyrant who likes to frolic under his favorite concubine's skirt? Unexpectedly, His Majesty suddenly pinched Lucia's cheek, saying, aren't I exactly that kind of person? This action excited and amazed the servants. Please, that's enough. Lilica was no longer surprised by such things. After His Majesty left, she wanted to ask her mom to let Bjorn be her tutor. She unconsciously worried. Did Bjorn get home safely later? I was too dazed to think him properly then, so I've been quite concerned about it. Lucia was initially worried, but this turned out to be a good thing. She agreed and then recommended someone to Lily. That child is from the Wolf family. You don't have to force yourself to be close to her. If you feel too tired, make sure to tell Mom. It wasn't long before Lily understood her mom's meaning. As soon as they met, the girl was disrespectful. Princess, do you consider yourself a member of the Tucker family? This cute girl, as soft as cotton candy, TR was an interim knight of the wolf family. Unlike her gentle appearance, from the moment she spoke, Lily sensed trouble. She continued, "Why did you call me to be your companion? I wonder what you saw in me." Lily answered honestly, but TR was even more confused. "The wolf family has many other candidates besides me." Lilica asked for her opinion. "Don't you want to be my companion? Do I have a choice?" Just as Bryn was about to angrily intervene, Lily replied, "Yes, you do. I don't want to force anyone to be my friend because of my status. I don't know what feelings you came here with, but you also have a choice. So, do you want to be my friend?" After thinking, the girl asked a question that had troubled her all her life. "Do you really consider yourself a member of the Tucker family?" As soon as she said this, Lilica stopped Bryn from getting angry. "That's because His Majesty sees me as part of the Tucker family. And I'm not forcing myself to be your friend because of Mom's orders. I genuinely like you." Although every word TR said was sharp and aggressive, if you listen carefully, you'd understand that what she wanted to say was, "Why do you want to be my friend? You don't really need me specifically, right?" Realizing this, TR apologized. Her mother was an employee of the Wolf family, and her father was from Sandal. They weren't officially married, so she wasn't a legitimate child. So she often clearly felt that she was different from the pure-blooded wolves. Even so, "Are you willing to let me be your companion?" Lilica nodded decisively. "So, are you willing to be my friend too?" TR smiled sweetly. "I want to be your friend too." That smile looked a bit like Rad and Pie. So cute. TR admitted her mouth was quite famous. Her nickname was Unfiltered TR. Both girls laughed out loud. "Then let's meet again next time. I'll tell you about my secret base then. I feel we'll definitely become good friends." The first magic lesson began in the evening, when the little princess first showed her magical talent. Her dragon king dad decided to teach her magic without telling anyone. The 3 taboos of magicians: desecrating the human heart, mocking life and death, and defiling life. Lilica nodded. She remembered it well. Then she picked up the pendulum, using this to connect the path in her heart. She closed her eyes tightly, imagining if there was a path in her heart and it was made by magic. What would it look like? If it was like that, it would definitely be a path paved with shimmering pebbles. Above it, there would be a flowing stream. First, she needed to learn how to control light. So what was the light in her heart? In her mind appeared Mom condensing that image on the clock face. Then she recited the spell. Suddenly, a dazzling light shone from her palm. She succeeded on her first try, but for a moment, she felt afraid. Father King noticed that hint of unease. "You've succeeded, so why that expression? Since you can emit light at any time, you no longer need to fear darkness. You can move forward bravely." But Lily was afraid of being alone. "However, I'll try to move forward bravely," as he said. Dad mentioned the 3 taboos. In fact, some magicians could and had done those things. Mentioning this, he felt a pang in his heart. Lily promised she wouldn't do those things. She took His Majesty's words to heart. "Very good. That's all for today. As for homework, before this time next week, you need to study the ancient language. You must understand the meaning of today's spell. Also, you can't tell anyone about learning magic rituals, including your mom." In the blink of an eye, they teleported back to the palace. Lilica agreed. His Majesty smiled gently, then disappeared from sight. His Majesty seemed different from usual. Just now, she seemed to be reminiscing about the past. In the play, there was always a woman repeating to him, "I love you, Ater." Why that expression? Lucia looked worried. For some reason, her appearance made Ater's throbbing head gradually relax. He hugged his wife from behind, buried his face in her shoulder, and laughed heartily. He, who looked so lonely, found a brief moment of support. Meanwhile, a pendulum themed with moon and stars was made. After confirming the meaning of the spell, the next step was to imbue it with magic. She recited the names of her loved ones one by one. TR, who received the gift, was excited. Lilica explained it was called an herbal wreath, a magical tool to repel mosquitoes and insects found in the palace warehouse. The 2 little girls huddled close and whispered. They wanted to know if this herbal wreath really worked, so they wanted to try it out quickly. Lilica decided to take her to her secret base. "You're still the prince's only salvation." Even Mom's favorite garden before she passed away, Ater gave to Lilica. This place was exactly like the garden she had dreamed of having when living in the slums. She had always hoped that one day she could have a garden of her own. When she leaves the palace later, she wants to create a garden with her own hands. So now she must learn first. She led her best friend to the secret base. TR couldn't believe there was such a rustic place in the palace. The two little ones enthusiastically helped the gardener weed. The lush green garden quickly became beautiful. The little princess happily wiped her sweat. "Thank you for coming to help." The lively Tiar suddenly raised her small shovel. "You're welcome. Let's all work hard together." He cautiously walked towards the outskirts of the cottage. As a result, he peeked out and discovered something strange. Bryn reminded him not to use the well when alone. "Oh!" Lilica exclaimed in surprise. The cottage was suddenly clean. It turned out that while they were tidying up the courtyard, Bryn had secretly found someone to renovate the cottage. Lilica praised her, and the little magician gave Bryn a big hug. The original intention was to express life sentiment. A truly beautiful garden is created by time. We just lent a hand. Lilica was looking forward to it. How surprised would her brother be when he saw the renewed garden? Tiar called out to the little princess, "Do you have any more of these herbal wreaths? I've been in the grass and haven't been bitten by bugs. It's really great." It seems she would have to make another one. During the evening magic lesson, the king father asked her why she didn't just use magic instead of making these things. Lilica explained that she didn't want others to discover she was a magician. "That's right, so you need to use these things as a medium. After all, anyone can use sacred objects." The little princess listened attentively to His Majesty's explanation. She felt closer to His Majesty, perhaps because of the nightly lessons recently. At first, she only knew fear, but now, whether it was praise or criticism, the feeling of his large hand gently patting her head was so warm, making her feel extremely good. Lilica curiously asked, "You're not a magician, right? You said before that you used dragon omnipotence. But how do you know all this?" "I used to know a magician." Seeing His Majesty's expression, Lilica said, "I'm sorry. I seem to have reminded you of bad memories." His Majesty felt it was fine. "If I didn't want to answer, I wouldn't have spoken in the first place. Besides, if it were other humans, I would have beaten them up. But you're different. After all, what father would get angry at his daughter for such a thing? So don't always apologize for such small things. That magician betrayed me. He said he loved me, but he betrayed me. He made me vulnerable, then took everything from me." Lilica responded, "That's not love. Betraying someone isn't love. I love Mom very much, so I know clearly. When you love someone, you'll understand. No matter the reason for hurting the other person, it's because of selfishness. Loving someone means always thinking of them first, often thinking about them, always wishing for their health and safety." With each word Lilica spoke, Ater's mind was filled with thoughts of Lucia. At this moment, he seemed to understand where his heart truly lay. Loving someone means always thinking of them first, often thinking about them. With each word the little princess spoke, the king's mind would associate it with Lucia. The Dragon King, who didn't understand human emotions, seemed to develop a vague sense of love at this moment. But the frequent nightly outings caused Lucia to have quite a misunderstanding. She told Ater to keep it hidden as much as possible. After all, they still needed everyone to think she was a favored empress. Ater chuckled softly. "Someone is teaching me to try to learn to love. Is it some lady who fell in love with you at first sight?" Little did she know it was her daughter, Lucia. She told him to fulfill his mistress's vow first. The harmonious imperial couple would be quite helpful in exercising her power as empress. Seeing him so calm, without even a hint of jealousy, Ater leaned close and confessed, "I have a wife. Can I love my wife?" After saying this, he placed a kiss on Lucia's hand. The unusual behavior made her shudder. The next day, Lucia arranged to meet her daughter. Coincidentally, Tiar, who was in her daughter's painting, was also there. "Lily, I'll leave it to you." Tiar, struck by her beauty, blushed. "I will definitely make your daughter happy." Soon after, Ater came in carrying a bouquet of flowers. Like a peacock, he frantically showed his love for the empress. The servants quickly made room for them. The demi-human came to the secret base again. The gardener asked the little princess why she seemed distracted. Lilica poured out her troubles. She had asked someone to be her painting friend earlier, but hadn't received a reply. Tiar thought that person was unwilling. Lilica immediately retorted, "She was the one who first said she wanted to be my painting friend." Tiar exclaimed, "That person is so impolite. How dare they make you worry so much?" Lady Bryn quickly covered her mouth to stop her from speaking further. Hearing the little princess murmur bijou, Tiar was stunned. "That bijouer from the Ballot family. You actually asked an enemy to be your painting friend. In that case, Daph's hesitation is understandable. Seeing Lily sighed dejectedly. He raised his hand high. The problem will be solved sooner or later. Just get your body moving, and you'll forget everything while playing. He hung 2 ropes on the tree. He demonstrated for Lily, who had never been on a swing before. This is how you swing. Lily's gaze followed his swinging motion. Suddenly, TR stood up. She leaped from a high place, flipping 360 degrees up and down. This is how you land when playing. This scared the maid and guard. Take her away. Then they had Lily hold the ropes and sit down obediently, gently pushing the little princesses back. The swing slowly started to move. Later, it swung higher and higher, floating up and down in the sky, with the breeze whistling in her ears. Closing her eyes slightly, her heart flew with the swing. Opening her eyes to see the azure sky and the cotton-like white clouds, listening to the chirping of birds. Everything was so beautiful. TR happily showed her little tiger teeth. When she was with the princess, she didn't have to worry about anything, didn't have to try hard to act normal. She could just show her truest self. I want to protect you forever, my little princess. Although she hoped Lily would belong to her alone, she supported everything Lily did. But don't you find it tiring to interact with people from the Ballot family? Just as Lily was about to speak, she suddenly felt something strange with her teeth. It seemed like it was time to pull a tooth. They were talking and laughing, when suddenly, rapid breathing was heard from the nearby bushes. Lilica looked down. How could Biue be here? The little princess was hiding someone, unexpectedly discovered by her brother. The two started fighting. Unexpectedly, his front tooth was injured. Just now, Biue, carrying his mother's whip, dragged his dying body out of the house. He wanted to tell the princess in person, I can't be your bad guy. He was the one who spoke first, but now he's turning around to reject her. He should apologize to her in person. But the ceiling before his eyes didn't seem to be the Ballots. Lilica had been watching over him all night. You're awake. Your fever has broken. You can sleep a bit more. Biue was stunned. Is this a dream? Lilica smiled and fanned him. This is not a dream. Then she pushed him down. Although your fever has broken, you still shouldn't move around. His pupils contracted slightly. He looked around in disbelief at everything. The cozy little cabin lit by candlelight. The waves of warmth blowing in. And Lilica's smile. It all seemed like an illusion. He finally let out a sigh of relief. Tears began to flow uncontrollably. Outside the door, Bryn followed instructions, bringing the ointment personally made by the princess. Unexpectedly, the effect was immediate. The wound that was bleeding just now healed instantly upon applying the ointment. Moreover, he woke up so quickly despite such severe injuries. The two decided to conceal the origin of the medicine, saying it was a secret palace formula. Suddenly, footsteps were heard. Lily, really? When did she hide all this from me? She's quite secretive. It's the Crown Prince, Your Highness. They hurriedly bowed. Please wait a moment. The uninformed Atur expressed understanding. But I don't want to be disturbed. 2 guards immediately restrained the guard. Without a word, they opened the door. Is Lily inside? Biue, hearing the commotion, tensed up. She suddenly sat up, nervously staring at the doorway. Atur looked embarrassed. It's already set up nicely like this. How much more effort does he need to put in? To the point of spending the night outside. He was so expectant. But as soon as he opened the door, the 3 of them stared at each other in shock. Thinking it was an illusion, Atur closed and reopened the door. But he could still see his beloved sister holding the enemy's hand. He had the same stunned expression as the other 2. Biue's mind was buzzing. It's over. Atur wouldn't listen to explanations and was about to punch him. Lilica tightly grabbed her brother's arm. The severely injured Biue waited silently to be hit. He didn't want to make the princess's situation more awkward, so it was better not to stand up. The ecstatic Atur just shook his arm. Unexpectedly, his strength directly threw her out. With a thud, Atur and Biue both tensed up. Lilica landed steadily in a squatting position. Her front tooth also fell out with a clatter. Lilica placed both hands on the ground. Blood slowly trickled from her mouth. Seeing this, Biue no longer hesitated. He furrowed his brows, immediately got up, and pushed Atur aside. Princess, are you all right? Lilica spoke. My tooth was already loose yesterday. I was planning to pull it out today. Don't worry, everyone. This is all a misunderstanding. I'm fine, she said with a muffled voice, waving her hand. Blood that had just stopped flowed out again from her tooth. Biue was furious. How could you be so rough? The little princess's front tooth was accidentally injured. The elder brother grabbed the younger one and started beating him. This is all your fault. Biue grabbed back. The one who hurt the princess was you. Lady Bryn completely disregarded the lives of those two. The little princess's tooth was already loose. I didn't expect it to come out this way, but as long as you're okay, nothing else matters. Lilika's mind raced. Suddenly, she had a flash of inspiration. She shouted loud. As soon as she spoke, her personal guard appeared inside the room. Your joke went too far. Although your highness looks a bit disheveled, the knights sprawled outside are in worse shape. He leaned towards the little princess. You're fine, he was about to say, when he saw that his own front tooth had fallen out. The old man was stunned for a moment. Without applying a very large external force, a person's teeth won't fall out. The old man had completely forgotten that this was the teething period for human children. His mind was filled with thoughts of his negligence, nearly losing his young master due to his failure. I finally have a master after such a long time. But someone's breathing suddenly became rapid, unable to suppress the rapidly beating heart any longer. Seeing this, Lilika quickly rushed over. It's okay. You weren't attacked. Calm down. Remember, I'm at the age of losing teeth. That's why it fell out. As she spoke, her front tooth started bleeding again. The atmosphere froze once more. Lilika tried to comfort everyone. Didn't I explain already? Bryn gently wiped away the blood. If it weren't for this incident, your tooth might not have fallen out at all. Lilika had an idea. She pointed at Biyue, then pointed to the left side. You go sit down. Then she pointed at her brother. You come out, and led her brother out by the hand. Bryn clapped indulgently. After the little princess left, he looked at the old man with a serious expression. Outside, little Lilika sincerely apologized. I'm sorry, Brother Atur. When asked why she was apologizing, she obediently lowered her head. I brought the B2 you were testing. Seeing this, Atur didn't accept her apology. You didn't do anything wrong in the first place. I've already given this place to you. It's your freedom to bring whoever you want. He was at a loss for words. Why argue with Lily over such an issue? This wasn't what he wanted to say, but the more she apologized, the harder it became for him to express his true feelings. Why won't you let me apologize? Lilika was stunned for a moment. It's okay, even if you're angry. Although I was very agitated earlier, it was still inappropriate to lay hands on you like that. In his heart, he wanted to say he didn't mean to hurt her. But what came out was, the injured one is you. Don't put on that pitiful act of a poor commoner crying and apologizing to me. Realizing he was being too tsundere, he secretly glanced back to observe his sister's reaction. Unexpectedly, Lily started cursing fluently, frantically producing melodious sounds. She spat out the handkerchief with a peh. I'm not ashamed of my background at all. I've never felt inferior because of it. I've never done anything to be ashamed of. That's both my self-respect and my pride. As she spoke, fresh blood sprayed out. Her mouth filled with blood, which she spat out again. She continued, I knew how much your highness hates Ballot, but I still decided to bring him in. That's why I apologized. Even now, I still feel sorry. Your highness, it's because I like you. I said I like you. Atur looked so happy just now. He had once promised her to make the courtyard beautiful before returning it to her. She must have thought he was planning some surprise party, which is why she shook off Lauf and barged in. However, she saw the deeply despised Ballot here with her sister. How strong must her sense of betrayal have been? Yet even so, her anger was first directed at Biyue, not herself. That's because she cherishes her. So I'm sorry. Atur turned his head away in embarrassment. How can you say such things so easily? Your fondness for others will become your weakness. It will only make you easier to be taken advantage of and get hurt. Atur suddenly realized something was off. From earlier, Lily's way of addressing him. I'm sorry, Lily smiled slightly. I'll accept your apology for now. Your Highness, Atur didn't understand what Lily liked about that guy. Lily thought he was good-looking and particularly harsh. Atur agreed. What virtues do the Ballot family have besides their faces? Lily coughed lightly. I don't know why, but some things about her always catch my attention. So it's still about the face, huh? Lily loudly refuted. The most beautiful person in this world is my mom. Atur was completely baffled. Therefore, I won't be fooled by ordinary looks. But that person's appearance is far from ordinary.